Hey everybody, Meteorologist Noah Simmons here, talking about a severe thunderstorm warning right now. So let's kind of jump to the radar real quick. So this is northwest Arkansas. Right now we got Benton County, really southwestern Benton County, kind of getting clipped with part of the severe thunderstorm warning. This warning is for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts as well as some nickel-sized hail. So it's mainly the wind that we're concerned about with the storm. It almost kind of bowing out. Sometimes we talk about this little bowing line segment. It's usually indicative of some stronger straight line winds. So that's kind of what we're watching just north of Stillwell there in Adair County. And this includes parts of western Washington County. It also includes parts of the Siloam Springs area, which is in Benton County. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. And I'll have to check the speed on this. I believe it was at 25, so they're not moving necessarily super fast, these storms, but they're moving fast enough that they're going to be on your doorstep potentially if you live in Washington County here relatively soon. So we'll kind of get a check on the speed on this here. This is moving southeast at 25 miles an hour. You kind of see the trajectory of this storm. Lots of lightning with this. If you're in Siloam Springs, you've heard it. It's a loud thunderstorm, and it's pretty typical when you get into those summertime months, June, July. If we're in Benton County right now, we're pretty much in the clear as this storm is going to continue to kind of sag its way southeastward. We'll do a little quick storm track on this. We'll actually zoom out a little bit more because right now this is really the only storm that we're talking about across the area. You'll notice that we are quiet across the river valley, but we'll keep our eye on it in case it does clip parts of the river valley in the next, say, 2 to 3 hours as a severe thunderstorm warning is going to be going here until the next 20 to 30 minutes. So hopefully it's a short live stream. I don't want to keep folks up too long, but this is going to go until midnight. Then this is moving southeast at 25. So let's get a little storm track on this for you guys. We'll zoom in a little bit closer here to some of our Oklahoma counties, but also parts of northwest Arkansas here. So there we are. I think that's a good area to zoom in on. And this is going to be moving at 25 miles an hour. So let's kind of get this storm track here. Going through Westville right now. It's near the Tahlequah area. Oh boy. Redo that. I accidentally clicked it. All right, here we go. 25 storm track miles an hour. So these storms have been moving roughly about 20 to 30, really the whole evening. And not a lot of folks have necessarily seen these storms, but we'll kind of put it in this general vicinity. So as these storms push their way southeastward, we're looking at the Lincoln area at about 5 or 6 minutes there. So this is going to be entering Washington County. You're probably hearing a lot of the thunder from this storm. Fayetteville right around midnight, and the severe thunderstorm warning goes until midnight. It could get extended and another one get reissued, so we'll watch that. We're looking at the Walmart Fayetteville on MLK, if you're familiar with that, a little before midnight, about 11:55, so about 25 minutes. We're talking about Elkins, about 12:23, Winslow, 12:30, the Bobby Hopper Tunnel, about 12:35 in the morning. If you're familiar with Artist Point along the Boston Mountain Scenic Highway, that's going to be about 12:50 in the morning. Lake Fort Smith State Park, kind of near the Mountainburg area, that's going to be at 1 in the morning if this line of thunderstorms is still severe. I don't expect it to be just completely vanishing, but we'll certainly watch that. And since we're going to be looking at some of these winds and mainly the strong wind threat out of this, we can certainly sample some of the winds out of this. So we're looking at our storm winds out of this. The bright greens are indicative of some of those winds going toward the radar site. So we're looking at the Fort Smith radar, so that's why the greens are showing up. So the wind is going toward the radar. So the radar site's way to our south in Fort Smith. And so that's what's showing up there with some of these stronger winds. I kind of just pushed through Siloam Springs, but it's actually kind of near the, say, Lincoln Prairie Grove area. So usually we show these reds and greens when we're talking about rotation. We're not seeing that right now, but we are seeing some strong straight line winds out of this storm, and that's what's just pushed through Westville. And this is going to be approaching their Lincoln and Prairie Grove area. So that's what this severe thunderstorm warning polygon encompasses for up to 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and that's enough to bring some small branches. So maybe ideally make sure we're staying away from windows, probably staying indoors. There's a lot of lightning, and I'm a meteorologist myself. I like watching storms, but even when there's a lot of lightning with storms, I even get a little antsy because I'm afraid that I might get struck myself. So I always just like to maybe stay inside, especially if there's a lot of lightning, which that is the case with some of these storms. So that's what we're looking at with the thunderstorm. We'll jump back to radar, or at least reflectivity radar, I should say. So it's moved in through Westville there, right along Highway 62. And if we kind of loop this the last 15 minutes, you can kind of see where that storm is entering. So if you're along Highway 62 from Prairie Grove to Lincoln, might be a rough go as the storms are going to be eventually working their way eastward. Look at all these little lightning bolts there popping up. Lots of lightning with this. So I kind of already mentioned that. But the severe thunderstorm warning includes Stillwell, parts of Morrow, Lincoln, Prairie Grove. Here's Washington County, and then right here is Interstate 49, Farmington, Fayetteville area. So these thunderstorms are continuing. I'm assuming we'll probably start to hear some thunder here at the station, as our station's kind of behind this little time scale, or this little timestamp above my head. So that's where the station is. But that's what we're looking at here. I'm kind of curious if we can pull up some web cameras here, and that's why I did bring the iPad over. And so I kind of just loop radar here. I'm going to get the iPad real quick, start to maybe rotate the camera and see if we can look into the storm and see how electrified this storm is. So that's what we're looking at here. Again, if you're just now joining us, it's just this one severe thunderstorm warning that includes parts of Washington County and pretty much almost all of Adair County on the Oklahoma side. Here's the Arkansas-Oklahoma state border. Benton County, so Bentonville, Rogers is up in this vicinity here, Springdale, Fayetteville, the River Valley, so Fort Smith, Van Buren, just on the bottom side of your screen. So if we're not talking about you in the River Valley, it's just because we're not seeing any storms for the time being. And hopefully we don't see any severe weather for the time being here over the next several hours. So let me pull up a couple of web cameras here. I'm actually curious if I can pull up a couple of our Fayetteville cameras. That would probably give us the best shot at this. And we'll go to... There we go. So we're going to be looking from this camera. This is at Fulbright Expressway. I'm going to have to rotate this camera west because we're currently looking north. And you guys can't see it here, but oh yeah, lots of lightning with this guy. And let me pull it up for you guys here. We're going to pull this, the Fulbright Expressway camera up big screen real quick, if I can find it here. All right, here we go. I had to find it for a second. All right, so we're looking from our Fayetteville camera here. Fulbright Expressway is in the background here, the bottom right hand of your screen. So we're looking westbound there. Interstate 49 would be right along here. We're looking at this, lots of lightning there. Nothing that really jumps out. Sometimes you kind of maybe see a lowering, but we're not exactly concerned about any rotation. Sometimes lightning can kind of illuminate that cloud, and man, lots of lightning. It's like a strobe light. This is not a time lapse. So lots of lightning with this, and you kind of illuminate some of those big thunderstorm clouds, those big cumulonimbus clouds that you often get with a thunderstorm complex like this. So we're looking west into this storm and into parts of the severe thunderstorm warning. And so that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Again, Fulbright Expressway going westbound, Interstate 49 would be running north to south as we're looking westbound into this storm here. Lots of lightning to talk about. And I could probably show you the Chamber of Commerce camera from Fayetteville, but it's probably going to show us a similar setup. I think this is probably a good shot, though. But if you're just now joining us, let's kind of get back to radar. And this is what we're seeing out there right now. It's this big cluster line of storms. If you're in Siloam Springs, I think the worst of it's pretty much done. You're still getting some heavy rain and still some thunder and lightning. But in terms of the strong winds, it's probably going to be on the leading edge of this that extends into parts of Washington County there. Westville's just gotten hit. A heads up if you're watching the Stillwell area, this is probably going to clip you as well. As a general trajectory of this is southeast, and it's not exactly moving super fast. It's moving about 25 miles an hour southeast, and that puts us in some of our communities a little bit closer to midnight as we kind of get to that Interstate 49 corridor. So if we're in Fayetteville, at least the Fayetteville downtown area, we're not in this severe thunderstorm warning. But if you maybe live on the west side of town in Fayetteville, or especially Farmington, Prairie Grove, we are going to be in this severe thunderstorm warning until midnight. So we got about 20 to 25 minutes of still talking about this severe potential. And it was technically warned for some nickel-sized hail, so since we haven't talked about hail, we can go to hail track and maybe see what we're seeing out there. And I know maybe some folks watching have PTSD from some of the hail that we've seen earlier this spring. And if you were hit with hail, I feel for you. It's not a great thing to be looking at and dealing with. Here's hail detector. It usually gives a generally good idea, and we're kind of getting really picky here. This is far northwestern Washington County. This little hail area is showing up. So this is probably indicating maybe nickel-sized hail, and that's what the warning is for. And so this is some small hail. I would, in order for me to get concerned about maybe seeing some larger hail, that would be enough to do damage to your car or maybe do damage to your window with like wind-driven hail. We would probably want to see this category into the blues. And earlier this spring, we saw it in like the pinks and like, I think it was this red shade that we saw at one time. That's when you get really big hail. We don't have that with this type of scenario. We're talking about strong straight line winds out of the leading edge of that storm. And if we jump back to radar, that's kind of what we're seeing out there. And if we kind of loop this That's what we're going to be talking about here. And this thunderstorm is not going to be going anywhere. Oh, that's the wrong thing. This thunderstorm is not going to be going anywhere exactly, but it is going to be warned for up to 60-mile wind gusts. We don't have a new update to that severe warning, but this got issued about 15, 20 minutes ago. So it's just the wind. That's the main threat. We kind of talked about that earlier in the newscast. This is going to be mainly a wind event with most of these storms. The tornadic potential was pretty low with these. And even the hail potential is still kind of on the lower side, so we're not really seeing necessarily huge hail out of this. Still can't rule out some pea-sized, maybe some nickel-sized hail in there. But as we work our way into the Washington County region, we're going to be getting into Prairie Grove, Lincoln. It's probably pretty much right on top of Lincoln right now. In fact, we can kind of zoom in on these thunderstorms as they start to enter parts of northwest Arkansas. So now we're into Lincoln. So if you're in Lincoln watching right now, first of all, hello, and we're going to be seeing those heavier showers and thunderstorms. I might even pull up the Facebook live stream to see if we maybe have someone watching from this area, maybe see how strong our winds are. Definitely want people to be indoors, away from windows primarily, just because you still have that chance of, if you have those strong winds, 50 to 60 miles an hour, you can get some trees and some small tree branches that can fall, and we don't want it to crash on top of you or crash into your window, and then you get get glass on your skin. That wouldn't be a good idea to maybe be pressed to the window kind of watching this. So that's kind of what this storm is. It pushes its way southeastward there. This is a 30-minute radar loop, so that's why it's keeps re-looping. It's a 30-minute radar loop. So not exactly moving super fast, but Prairie Grove, we're next in line with this. Farmington's up here. Fayetteville would be right in this vicinity here, and then West Fork is just behind where my back is, kind of near that monitor on the right side of your screen. So that's what we're looking at there. It'll be interesting to see if we see this severe thunderstorm warning get extended. It goes until midnight. But if we jump to our winds right now, what we're basically looking at is those bright greens. When I say bright greens, we're talking about winds going toward the radar. So the radar site that we're looking at this storm from is down in Fort Smith. So it's a little bit further south on the bottom hand of your screen. That's why that little radar beam is kind of pulsing around. So we're looking at these bright greens. That's where the strongest winds are. You kind of see that near Westville, potentially there Lincoln. So we'll have to watch those severe thunderstorm gust winds. We'll zoom out a little bit more. You can kind of see where the strongest wind right now is in the storm. It's pretty much in Adair County, kind of near Christie, near the Christie area, but also western Washington County, kind of getting in towards Lincoln. Again, Prairie Grove's next with some of those strong wind gusts. So it'll kind of be interesting to see how strong of winds we can get. Hopefully, they're not necessarily over 60 miles an hour. Hopefully, they're a little bit less, like 40 to 50. But we're going to be watching that potential there. And we'll jump back to radar real quick. So if you're joining us, right, lots of lightning with these storms, highly electrified. And the severe thunderstorm warning goes all the way into the Farmington area. Here's Interstate 49 Fayetteville. We're not included in it, but if you look off to the west, we showed that Fulbright Expressway Slim Chickens camera. Obviously, you can see lots of lightning. Look at these little lightning strikes popping up there. And probably our strongest winds is near Watts to Westville as it kind of surges its way southeastward. So it might be still raining and stormy in Lincoln, but we still have those strong winds to contend with as we work our way over the next, say, 5 to 10 minutes. So we'll still be away from windows also for you guys in Prairie Grove and Farmington as some of that wind surge starts to come out of this vicinity here. And just kind of checking the National Weather Service. If I'm kind of looking at the monitor, it's not because I'm ignoring you guys. It's just because I got to juggle multiple things at once. National Weather Service is saying we had a downward trend on the western edge of the cluster. And we kind of saw that with the wind potential there, and I'll kind of show you guys here in a few seconds. There was a secondhand public report near Tahlequah of 60 to 65 miles an hour. If you've never heard of Tahlequah, it's because it's technically not in our viewing area. It's just west of our viewing area. And in fact, I'll zoom out for you guys so you can kind of see where that secondhand report came in. So it's not necessarily verified, but that's where Tahlequah is. And they were kind of mentioning that maybe the winds come down a little bit, but there's still lots of lightning. In fact, most of the lightning with this whole entire complex is still just west of Adair County in the Tahlequah area, south of Oaks there, north of Pettit. So that's kind of where that strong wind gust came out in this vicinity. So we're still watching that. In fact, if we jump to velocity there to see how strong those winds are, that's kind of what the Weather Service has been talking about a little bit. You notice that the brightest winds and the strongest greens and the strongest wind coming toward us is in this vicinity, pretty much right on top of the Missouri-Arkansas border. And notice maybe not as strong of winds, maybe not as bright of greens off into this vicinity. So a little bit stronger winds as we work our way to that Missouri-Arkansas border. In fact, if you're curious, sometimes the radar can sample how strong these winds are. And so I can sometimes give you guys a good idea on what we're seeing. This is kind of showing up to 50 to 60 miles an hour, which would check out. That's what the severe thunderstorm warning is for. And the reason why it's negative is because it's green. It's coming toward the radar. That's how we're measuring the velocity. So that's why it shows negative out there. I kind of want to measure a few other areas. This is near Prairie Grove, about 50 mile an hour gusts. So definitely enough to bring some tree limbs and some tree branches down. So we got to watch that. Again, another 55 mile an hour. It's what the radar's estimating. So it's not necessarily ground truth. But we certainly, got to take this seriously as a severe thunderstorm warning continues for another 15 minutes. So we'll see if they extend it here. This is where that severe thunderstorm warning is coming in. And this is kind of interesting. I kind of want to show you this to you guys. You kind of see this little thin green line from, say, Stillwell to Morrow. This is actually a little bit of outflow from the storm, and sometimes it acts to push that more unstable air out away from the storm and can sometimes stabilize things a little bit. And what looks like we're going to be continuing the severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Adair County, Benton County, and Washington County here on the Arkansas side. So it looks like they're going to kind of continue. It looks like they kind of trimmed that warning. That's why I was kind of flashing there for a little bit. And I'm going to see if they changed the speed at all. It was at 25 miles an hour. And if they change the speed, we can do a different storm track. Yeah, still moving southeast at 25. Let's do one quick storm track there, and then I'll kind of want to open some Facebook comments and see if we're maybe seeing any reports out there, or if people have any questions, because I'd hopefully like to answer people's concerns out there. This is moving at 25 miles an hour, so we're going to do a little squall line track of this, and we'll start at just west of Fayetteville. I'd say that's a general. I'd say that's the general track of this. So if we're in Farmington, about 10 to 12 more minutes. Kessler Mountain, about just after midnight. West Fork, about 12:10 in the morning, so another 25 minutes-ish. Devil's Den State Park, about 12:20 in the morning, if we have any campers out there. Winslow is going to be at 12:25 in the morning. And if you're wondering what should you do in terms of action, just try and stay indoors, stay away from windows, because we have some strong wind gusts out of this. Sometimes they can blow some tree branches down. So that's what we kind of like to preach out there. And there's a lot of lightning, so I know a lot of people they want to go on their porch and maybe watch the storm. There's a lot of lightning. Even when there's lots of lightning, if this was me, I would probably be indoors too. Just because you have that hazard out there when it's just such an electrified storm. As we continue that storm track, we're going to be near Artist Point at 12:45, so about another hour. Lake Fort Smith State Park just before 1 in the morning. White Rock Mountain also about 1 in the morning. So that's a quick look at the storm track out there. And of course, we're going to be talking about this thunderstorm here for a little bit longer. In fact, we had a spotter measure 55 mile an hour winds, and that was kind of on the leading edge. And that was a little bit west of Washington County. That's where the little report came in this vicinity. So that was 55 mile an hour wind gusts. And we've seen that our strongest wind gusts are in this vicinity. So we certainly have to watch some strong wind gusts with that. So as this thunderstorm continues to push its way through, we got to be away from windows. It has 60 mile per hour wind gusts as this continues to work its way through. And this is still going to be until midnight. They could still, wouldn't be surprised if they do extend this into parts of the viewing area. So we'll watch that. But I just want to kind of jump to Facebook, as we're going to be talking about, these thunderstorms here. And I want to answer anyone's questions that they may have, because sometimes you can get so encompassed in the coverage that, you disregard for people's comments. So we'll kind of jump to that real quick. Here, okay. News. All right, we're on the Facebook page here. If you guys have any comments here, questions, please direct them my way here. We're going to look here in the next 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes here. Okay, so how long is Benton County Siloam Springs in that severe thunderstorm warning? Well, technically, here's a little warning polygon. So this whole warning polygon, this little yellow orange area, this goes until midnight. So if you're on the southeastern half of Siloam Springs, you're still technically under the severe thunderstorm warning, but the worst of it is past you. So you're probably still hearing some thunder, probably still seeing some showers and thunderstorms. You'll have to watch that for some heavy rainfall. We're not really expecting that to be severe. The bulk of the severe weather is in this vicinity. And so that's kind of what we're looking at there. What's it look like for Lowell and Springdale area? So here's Lowell, here's Springdale. We're going to get some rain. Might hear a little bit of thunder. I can hear a little bit of thunder here at the station. Our station's right here. So yeah, we'll get some rain, we'll get some thunder out there. But in terms of the worst of it, looks to pass you just to your south. So at least that's some good news for you guys watching there. The Fort Smith area. So the Fort Smith area, we haven't really been focusing on the River Valley just because there's no storms to be talking about in the River Valley right now. And that's some good news for the time being. So if we're in Fort Smith, Van Buren area, we're good right now. We'll still have to watch this cluster over the next couple hours as it might clip parts of the River Valley with the southeasterly trajectory. Someone wants to know, is it tracking towards Rudy and Alma? More, I would say yes. In fact, we'll zoom out a little bit more for you guys here. So Rudy, Alma, in this vicinity here. So yes, it is slowly trekking its way. Again, it's not moving super fast, only about 25 miles an hour. So if it were to get to Alma, Mountainburg, it would be probably a little after 1 in the morning. So it's going to be still some time before these storms reach you guys. And then what about Salisaw? Again, Salisaw is right here. And these thunderstorms, they're slowly moving their way southeastward, but I want to bring your attention to something else here. And let me get this thing off the screen for you guys. So this is something interesting that we got to watch closely. So right, lots of thunder and lightning with this. We've already mentioned that, but this is a 30-minute radar loop. Notice how this is almost, this part of the storm isn't necessarily pushing it southward necessarily. It's almost moving due east. So we got to watch a flooding potential with this as well, especially if you're in Adair County, even parts of western Washington County, as this cluster of storms is almost moving due east. Now this little line, at least the eastern part of this line, is moving more southeasterly here. But in terms of the back side of this storm, where there's a lot more thunder and lightning, this is almost moving over the same area, almost west to east. So we'll have to watch that there. And of course, we'll see if they kind of reissue this. But it looks like the eastern end of the line in western Washington County, so this right here, is starting to trend down just a little bit. That's what the National Weather Service is talking about. So that's some good news. So if it's trending down a little bit, maybe they won't reissue this. So we'll find out in 10 minutes if they're to extend this severe thunderstorm warning a little bit further out. But also, I kind of showed you guys a little bit earlier, this little thin green line, it's really hard to see, this little outflow. Sometimes that can be an indication that the storm is slowly weakening because it kind of pushes all the unstable air out ahead of it. And so this is more stable air, so as that storm is ingesting more stable air up into its updraft and up into the atmosphere. So it sometimes weakens the storm a little bit. So we'll watch that. And so that's kind of what we looked at there. Again, we had someone from Westville. Yeah, we got some strong winds and lots of thunder and lightning in Westville. It's just a classic summertime heavy thunderstorm. Still be away from windows and just be indoors. Obviously, it's just a really electrified storm with this. And then someone was asking about Siloam Springs one more time. So if you're watching from Siloam Springs, we're in this vicinity here. The heaviest of the thunderstorm has pushed to your southeast. You're probably still hearing thunder and maybe seeing some lightning and probably still raining at your house. But in terms of the severe potential, it's already past you. And this severe thunderstorm warning polygon that includes probably parts of Siloam Springs, at least the southeastern half, goes all the way until midnight. And there's that little thin green line. That's some storm outflow that we kind of talked about. I kind of want to jump to velocity storm radar, and we might even pull up a web camera here, at least another one, as I'm kind of looking at things here. Yeah, our strongest winds are right near that Washington County and Adair County line. Right in this, so here's Stillwell. Here's where the strongest winds are when you get those bright greens and almost like a light blue color. If you look at the storm legend up here, the storm winds legend. So we got some really strong winds coming out of the storm there between Prairie Grove and Stillwell. Here's Lincoln. So Lincoln, you're probably seeing some strong wind gusts out there. So hopefully we're away from windows there. And And that's what we're going to be talking about. In fact, let's just sample the winds real quick. Wouldn't be surprised if we have some 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Yeah, we're close to that, 48. That's what the radar is estimating or measuring a little bit aloft in the atmosphere. This isn't necessarily ground truth. It's what it's measuring a little bit further up in the atmosphere. So up to 50 miles an hour. Kind of get this, yeah, maybe up to 55. So we're very close to that severe criteria of 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts out there with some of these storm winds. So we'll certainly have to watch that as it slowly starts to push its way through the southwestern quadrant of Washington County. So again, Springdale, Lowell, Bentonville, it's up toward north. We're good for now. Fayetteville, we also look to miss at least the worst of it, as it's going to be Prairie Grove and just south as that little strong line of wind starts to move through. And we're not looking at rotation here. I know some people might get a little nervous. We start talking about these storm winds and reds and greens, usually talking about rotation. I'm just showing you this to kind of measure how strong our winds are. We're looking at damaging wind threat with this. So we'll kind of get out of that, and we'll take you back to radar real quick. So there's that little gust front, some of that outflow that we kind of talked about there. Let's loop this the last 30 minutes. And as I do that, I'm going to look at some of our web cameras, and we'll kind of show you guys what we're talking about. But you got to watch some flooding potential there from Westville to Tahlequah, as these storms are, at least this part of the line is moving southeastward. So, heads up in far northern Crawford County there. North of Mountainburg, so Winslow, West Fork is in this vicinity. So you guys are up next. You're not included in the severe thunderstorm warning, but you're still probably hearing the thunder out of there. And obviously lots of thunder and lightning and some heavy rainfall. So we got to watch the flooding potential there in Adair County, even parts of western Washington County as well over the next, say, hour. Let's pull up a web camera here. In fact, we're going to continue to look at our Fayetteville camera. And here we go. All right. Here we go. So this is we're looking again, Fulbright Expressway. Lots of lightning with this, and almost, I would probably say this is a bit of a shelf cloud. You can sometimes get that. Again, they're harmless. We're not talking about a wall cloud. A wall cloud is when a storm is rotating. We're not seeing that here. This is kind of a shelf cloud, kind of just, you typically see that when you have a line of storms. It's kind of just the rain-cooled air getting out of the storm, and of course it ascends and kind of makes this little shelf cloud. That's what we're kind of seeing there. Of course, lightning illuminates all of it. So here's that shelf cloud as it's coming pretty much at the camera almost. We're looking west, so Fulbright Expressway is in this vicinity. We're looking westbound, Interstate 49 here. Here's the medical center. I forget what medical center it is. I should know off the top of my head, but it's near Fulbright Expressway there. There's all that lightning. So we got heavy rainfall, maybe some small hail behind that. So that's what's behind this little shelf cloud that you kind of see there, as there's just lots of lightning kind of illuminating this, and even maybe a few raindrops kind of hitting the camera there. So we'll kind of hang out here as this shelf cloud kind of comes in toward the Fayetteville area. Again, Fayetteville's not included in this severe thunderstorm warning, but we're certainly going to be watching this as it kind of rolls in. So the bulk of the severe storm is a little bit further southwest. So if you're in Prairie Grove, if you're in Lincoln, that's where the strongest winds are expected there. And there's been just a slight weakening trend that the National Weather Service has kind of watched and monitored, but we'll see here in the next few minutes if they reissue that severe thunderstorm warning. So I kind of just rotate this camera just a little bit more southwest. So Fulbright Expressway would be in the background. We're still looking west there. And then there's kind of that shelf cloud potentially that we were kind of talking about there. Right, lots of lightning kind of illuminating that heavy rainfall in the background. And again, you guys get the idea. Let's kind of jump back to radar here, because we all know what lightning looks like. All right, here we go. So we're going to be definitely looking at the potential for mainly strong winds. I know some folks are asking about hail potential. That's a valid concern, considering we've had some big hail events the last couple of months. It's a valid concern. We're not necessarily concerned about hail. In fact, just to kind of show you guys that, we'll look at hail detector. Just not a lot of hail popping up here. Maybe a little small hail core just west of Adair County. But for the large majority of us, we're looking pretty good here. Maybe some small pea-sized hail there in western Washington County. This is mainly a wind event, though. In fact, if we jump to velocity there, that's kind of what we're talking about there. And it looks like the winds have come down just a little bit. And for anyone just watching and kind of confused what we're looking at, again, greens, it's winds going toward the radar. We're looking at the radar site in Fort Smith. So if you're watching from Fort Smith, we're talking about you because that's where the radar site is. That's what we're sampling, the storm. But we're not seeing any storms in the river valley right now for the time being. So that's some good news. We'll still have to watch this cluster, though, as it could clip parts of the river valley. But for now, Lincoln, Prairie Grove, if you live south of that in southwestern Washington County, that's where the strongest winds are. And we're still seeing 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts potentially with that as we continue this coverage of the severe thunderstorm warning. Just looking at our National Weather Service partners, seeing if they're seeing anything out there. Again, nothing too crazy to kind of point along. This severe thunderstorm warning goes for another minute. Now, it doesn't mean the thunderstorm is just going to disappear magically. I wish it did, but that's just not going to be happening. And we'll jump back to reflectivity here, and we'll zoom out a little bit more for you guys. And this is what we're looking at here with this thunderstorm here. So if you're watching the river valley, you're watching Fort Smith, we still have to watch it and watch this cluster of storms, but almost look at the trajectory. In fact, actually, I want to do an hour loop of this. It looks like we got a new update here, so I'll pass that along to you guys. Okay. Here we go. All right, why is it not? All right, here we go. This is a 1 hour radar loop. And I'm just showing you guys the 1 hour radar loop to kind of see the general trajectory of it. So this part of the line is continuing to dive its way southeastward. So if we're in maybe northern Crawford County, maybe even far northern Franklin County, let's start thinking about this if it were to continue to be severe. But like I just mentioned, that warning, at least for this part of the line, expired at midnight, and it is midnight. It just went into Friday morning, so good morning to you guys. So yeah, this severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Washington County has been expired, but they did issue a newer severe thunderstorm warning for Adair County for this cluster of the line there, as there's still lots of thunder and lightning with this cell as it continues to kind of work its way southeastwards. I'm curious on what the National Weather Service put the direction with this storm at, because we kind of talked about it. It wasn't necessarily a for sure southeasterly trajectory, and if it was, it's very slow. So we'll look at it here, and we'll see when this warning goes for, because this is north of Sequoia County. This is for Adair County. And they have this moving due east at 40 miles an hour, so that would make sense. And they took out the hail tag with this. So this is just warned. This warning right here is just warned for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and it's moving east. So we got to watch some flooding. I mean, areas like Lincoln, Prairie Grove, if you live in far southern Washington County, so kind of near Devil's Den State Park, this thunderstorm, this part of the thunderstorm is going to continue to work its way into your neck of the woods, but then you still have this cluster of storms that continues to work its way eastward. So we got to watch that still. And, something to still pass along is that while the line that we were tracking in Washington County, so I'll circle it for you guys here real quick. So this part of the storm is non-severe right now. However, the National Weather Service is still seeing that wind gusts up to or around 50 miles an hour are still possible with this area I just circled. So it might not be in a severe thunderstorm warning. It might not be showing signs of 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, but it's still an area that I circled that we still have to talk about some gusty winds, and that's still more than enough to bring some small tree limbs down. So let's just still watch this line. It continues to surge its way eastward, kind of along Interstate 49. And I might even pull up an RDOT camera. I'm not going to be able to rotate any RDOT cameras, but as this crosses Interstate 49 between, say, Greenland and say Mountainburg area, we might see obviously some heavy rain and some thunderstorms as it pushes through. So that's what we're looking at. That severe thunderstorm warning that includes just Adair County in terms of our coverage area. It goes until I believe it's 12:30 in the morning. It's for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. It's moving east at 40, so the speed's picked up just a little bit. And that's what we're looking at here. As I'm looking, actually, excuse me, I thought it was 12:30. This severe thunderstorm warning goes until 12:45 in the morning. So we still have to talk about this, for another 40-plus minutes, and hopefully it doesn't get extended again into Washington County. Still watching this, so for some 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. At least the winds have come down just a little bit, but still going to be watching that. And let's actually pull up the the Slim Chickens Fayetteville camera because probably that shelf cloud that we're looking at has probably already passed the camera, and so we might be getting pelted here. Maybe not. We'll see. So let's pull up a camera. This is going to be our Fayetteville camera. All right, here we go. So we're looking southwest into the storm here, and I'm assuming we're starting to get pelted with rain there. I see those thunderstorm clouds in the background there, right? The camera's getting wet here because that rain is starting to enter into the area. Full Ride Expressway would be behind me, so this is from the Slim Chickens headquarters looking southwest into a part of the storm. So lots of heavy rain and lightning on the backside of this. And we'll jump to a radar here. Again, this is 1 hour radar loop. Gotta watch that flooding potential if we're near the Stillwell vicinity. And we'll zoom in a little bit closer for you guys because if we're in Prairie Grove, we're getting hit really hard. So here was our web camera right here. We're pointing at southwest. Here's downtown Fayetteville area, downtown Farmington. So it's raining a little bit harder in Farmington. Fayetteville, we're still getting hit with some rain right now. And then as we work our way into West Fork and eventually Winslow, this surge in wind a little bit is going to start to work its way into West Fork. So I'm going to see some gusty winds here momentarily if you're in West Fork. Winslow is going to be a little bit later. It's not severe right now, but it's still going to be up to 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So we still got to watch that. Prairie Grove getting hit pretty hard right now. It's probably a loud thunderstorm there. Lincoln, sure, it's still pretty windy in Lincoln right now, although maybe the heaviest rainfall is maybe a little bit just to your east. Still, regardless, I think it's just a heavier thunderstorm across the western half of Washington County there. And we'll kind of see if anyone has any questions real quick. Yeah, so if you're, again, yeah, so Prairie Grove, pretty bad right now. Again, if you're watching in Prairie Grove, yeah, you're probably seeing the heaviest of this thunderstorm right now. So hopefully you're safe. Hopefully you're away from windows. Probably a loud thunderstorm for you guys. We have a viewer say, hope my tent set up at the in Bentonville Bike Fest is okay. So if we're in Bentonville and we're watching from Bentonville area, I think we're good. I mean, we did have, a little few thunderstorms earlier, but, Bentonville Rogers is up here. So, we're good right now. So that's some good news there. Again, the bulk of that thunderstorm is just off to our southeast. Or excuse me, really just to our south. And looks like we just got this new update here. It looks like we got a flash flood warning. I don't want anyone to panic. This is not a tornado warning. So this is a flash flood warning here. Again, I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. These rain and storms kind of just moving over the same area, kind of training. And we say training because think of train boxcars just moving over the same track. That's kind of what we have here, especially if you're in Tahlequah. So that's where that flash flood warning is we've just seen some very heavy rainfall. Let's still watch Adair County and even Washington County as we're still going to watch that thunderstorm. Here's the interesting thing. Here's that gust front, some rain-cooled air, some outflow from that storm there. It's reached West Fork pretty much. And kind of up here a little bit, we'll kind of look at some RDOT cameras to kind of see what we're seeing out there between, say, West Fork and Winslow. We have some Oklahoma Mesonet stations, of course, in the state of Oklahoma, and one of those stations measured a little over 2 inches of rainfall in Tahlequah just within, the last hour and a half. So already 2+ inches with some of these heavier rainfall rates. So that's kind of why I talked about that flooding potential that we kind of got to look out for. So that's why that flash flood warning is in effect. Again, so we had a report saying lots of hail in Tahlequah, Oklahoma just now. We'll go to hail track there. I'm sure there's probably a lot of heavy rain mixed in there. We're just getting pelted with some heavy rain, probably maybe a little bit of hail getting mixed in there. We had a question about West Fork. I'll address that here in a few seconds. Just looking at hail right now. Yeah, there's some on the map. If I can zoom in a little bit more. Again, we had a little bit there in Tahlequah. It was probably smaller, but maybe some pea nickel-sized hail there near the Tahlequah area. So we had a viewer kind of report that. So thanks for that report. As long as you can, do that safely and kind of say something in the live stream there. Let's jump back to radar here, and we'll do a 30-minute radar loop to give you guys an idea. Someone asked about West Fork. So West Fork, we're going to start to see some gusty winds. If you haven't already seen gusty winds in West Fork or Winslow, it's going to be here in the next few minutes. And of course, the heaviest rainfall is just off to your west. You're probably starting to see some some showers here, some raindrops, even some thunder and lightning. Again, Prairie Grove up to Farmington getting hit pretty hard right now. I might have to walk over there and pull up an RDOT camera here in a little bit, as the storm is pretty much almost right on top of Interstate 49. It's just to the west. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. And I want to not zoom in, but kind of show you guys this here. So this is that little gust front, that little storm outflow that I kind of talked about. Sometimes I can weaken a storm a little bit, but sometimes it acts as a little bit of a, like I said, gust front. So you start to see some gusty winds start to push in. So heads up in Mountainburg, this gust front's going to continue to work its way into your neck of the woods, Mountainburg, up to Chester area. Here's Winslow, here's West Fork. Here's that severe thunderstorm warning. We did have a severe thunderstorm warning earlier for Washington County, but it has since been dropped and been expired. It's been replaced with a special weather statement, which just means that it's one step below a severe thunderstorm warning. Basically just means sometimes they look for hail, a little bit smaller than quarters. Sometimes they look for winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour. This has wind gusts around 50 miles an hour. So we'll have to watch that there in West Fork. We'll see if it kind of pulses up. But there's that severe thunderstorm warning for Adair County there. Goes until 12:45, so another, 30, 35 minutes still to talk about this severe thunderstorm warning. And then you have the flash flooding potential, as Tahlequah has been absolutely just seeing a deluge of rainfall. Even saw a little bit of small hail just a few moments ago. So that's what we're looking at right now. And someone's asking about a tornado. We don't have a tornado warning or a tornado watch or anything like that. It's just a severe thunderstorm warning. In fact, here's kind of our winds, and our winds have actually kind of trended a little bit downward with this cell actually. And we typically want to see some bright greens and some bright reds right next to each other. And yeah, we see some greens and reds, but there's no little tight couplet here or there. This is kind of just all really just some strong winds coming out of the storm. And notice where the brightest greens are in southwestern Washington County. That's where we're seeing those stronger winds. It looks like they've come down actually a little bit. If you've been on maybe the last 20, 30 minutes, these were a little bit brighter, which means that they're not as bright. It means our winds have come down a little bit. And actually what's interesting is there's that little gust front, that little thin green strip there. There's that gust front, there's that little alpha that the radar's picking up. And so that's what we're seeing out there across the region. And if you're curious on how strong these winds are, I know we had someone in West Fork and Winslow. Looks like our winds have come down, so not necessarily 50 to 60. I'd call it maybe 40 to 50 at times, which is still enough to bring some small tree branches. But that's what we're talking about with this storm. Let's jump back to reflectivity radar here. And I might do a little storm track momentarily. And here we go. All right, so here's that severe thunderstorm warning. Right, it goes until 12:45 in the morning. It includes Cherry Tree, Park Hill, Stillwell, Tahlequah. Those are the cities. And this is the main thing we're concerned about, is those strong winds as it's kind of coming out of the storm there. But I think really right now, you just got to watch that flash flooding potential if we're in Adair County, but also Washington County as well. If we're in maybe Lincoln, Prairie Grove, Farmington. If this little cluster of storms continues to push its way eastward, it's going to be just dropping some very heavy rainfall rates over the same area. So let's kind of watch that. If you're in a flood-prone area, let's keep an eye on it over the next, say, hour or so, as we're going to be talking about that heavy rainfall potential there. And we'll get back to the radar loop here. And all right, so we'll take that warning box off so you guys can see the whole radar here. And about a minute or two, we'll kind of jump to what some of our RDOT cameras are. So here's Interstate 49, Winslow, West Fork. Again, Fayetteville would be up in this vicinity here. So Fayetteville, we're not in the severe thunderstorm warning. We're not even seeing the strongest winds out of the storm, which isn't necessarily severe right now. It's this severe thunderstorm warning in Adair County. This could potentially track in Washington County. So that's kind of why we're watching it here. And also we got to watch that flood potential as well. And even Devil's Den State Park is in this vicinity as well. We'll have to watch that heavy rainfall there. I believe Lee Creek runs for the state park, so we'll kind of watch that as well. Right, lots of thunder and lightning. You're probably hearing it here in West Fork. Even Winslow, wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing some of that as well. So we had a viewer said heavy rain, high winds in Tahlequah moments ago. It got crazy for a little time before it kind of calmed down. So yeah, sometimes these storms, they kind of push some strong wind gusts. Right, we talked about wind gusts. Giving you a strong wind gust, not necessarily sustained winds. And so Of course, when you have a strong wind gust of maybe 50 to 60 miles an hour, that's enough to maybe cause a little bit of damage to some small tree limbs, maybe some roof shingles. Hopefully that's not the case for your area or for your neighborhood. So someone says West Fork is getting hit with some heavy rain, lightning, and high winds. And I certainly believe that because that thunderstorm's on your doorstep right now. Let's loop this real quick. And I'm gonna walk over here. I'm gonna disappear for like 20 seconds. I want to pull up some RDOT cameras real quick. Here's a thunderstorm. I gotta update something real quick here. So I'm gonna turn off the banner here so you guys don't get confused where we're looking at here. Okay. We're gonna go to some RDOT cameras. Well, let's have radar. I'll pull up radar for you guys real quick here. Still loading. Okay, here we go. So again, this is a flash flood warning, not a tornado warning. It's a flash flood warning. We've just seen some torrential rainfall with this. If we're in the river valley, right, we're dry for the time being, but we got to watch some more residual showers and storms potentially develop here. And it's basically just this main cluster. That's pretty much all we're talking about here over the next hour or two. I'm going to walk over here, get some RDOT cameras pulled up for you guys. And actually, before I should do that, I should probably pull up the RDOT camera here real quick. Again, there's a look at radar right now. Okay. Now we can pull up some cameras here across the area. So we're just gonna hang out for a minute or two, then we'll jump back to radar. Kind of just want to see what's going on here. So here's the West Fork camera, at least the West Fork exit. All right, we're looking northbound right now. Yeah, that's what you'd expect. A lot of lightning to kind of illuminate that camera as we're looking northbound. I think probably the stronger storm is a little bit here near Pitkin Corner. Looking southbound, probably into the little heavier part of the storm. Again, this is Interstate 49 at Pitkin Corner under one of those overpasses. Again, it's kind of hard when it's dark like this. You're not exactly gonna see a whole lot, and that's why we're not gonna spend a whole lot of time here. Just want to come to some web cameras here. It's kind of a cool shot there. Kind of see some of the Ozark Mountains there in the distance in the horizon. Sometimes the lightning kind of illuminates some of the hills there. There we go. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at right now. And again, this severe thunderstorm warning is only for Adair County. It was for Washington County. It did get dropped, though. This is probably a little bit further south, so we're not looking at the storm there. Again, this is just north of Chester, just north of Mountainburg. So we're looking just north of Chester here. This is another overpass. We're looking northbound. You can't really see a whole lot of the sky there. Obviously, lightnings illuminate. Now we're looking northbound out of this sky. I think we're just looking at this camera. Hard to tell when it's completely pitch black. So I'm going to walk over. We'll get you guys back to radar real quick. And again, that's kind of just want to look at some Interstate 49 cameras there. It's what you'd expect, lightning. It's pretty typical with this thunderstorm here. So it looks like they're going to continue that severe thunderstorm warning for Adair County. That's what the National Weather Service is saying. And that's going to be until 12:45 in the morning. It's another half an hour for the severe thunderstorm warning. That's why it's blinking. They're going to continue that. They might have changed the wind speeds with this. But if you're between, say, Fayetteville and Mountainburg, heavy rainfall in between here. So West Fork, Winslow are going to be getting hit with some of this as well. Now, someone from the Westville area said the winds have died down, but have picked up again a little bit. So that would check out there across Westville area, kind of near north of Stillwell. Let's get this little box out so you can kind of see. So there's Westville, right? Still seeing those heavier showers and storms. We're looking at all those cameras along Interstate 49 here. All right, some heavier pockets of rainfall, especially near Winslow. It's almost kind of bubbled up a little bit there, but it's below severe limits. It's still a loud thunderstorm, still giving you some gusty winds for sure. And of course, we're still watching the flooding potential as well. What I could do is show you guys a computer model. And again, keep in mind, this is a computer model simulation. I haven't necessarily looked at it yet. This particular computer model run that I'm going to show you guys updates every hour. So we'll see if it has a good handle on this cluster of storms. I kind of want to see if it does. Because some people are wondering, when can these storms, or when can storms maybe be expected to hit you overnight? I'm sure some folks are maybe wondering that. That's kind of what the chat has been saying here on Facebook. So I kind of want to maybe address some of those concerns because I like to um, see your guys' comments and see what you guys want to know. So I want to look up a okay. So this is a model run. So this is about 1 in the morning. Will the radar look like this at 1 in the morning? Probably not. I would say this cluster of storms that we're happening right now is probably going to be in this vicinity by 1 in the morning. So let's see what this model run wants to give us throughout the next several hours here. Again, this updates every hour. So there by 2, 3, now we're into 4 a.m. So potentially that cluster of storms getting into parts of the river valley. Maybe some residual development here. Again, this model is kind of flip-flopped back and forth here. And as we work our way into that morning commute, here's 6 a.m. And we kind of talked about this in the evening newscast. We do have our rain and storm chance a little bit higher across the river valley. So we could still be dealing with some residual showers and storms across the area. So will the radar look like this? Maybe. I would still bet on some heavier pockets of rainfall here and there. I don't necessarily think it's going to be widespread there by 6 in the morning, but be prepared maybe for some heavy downpours. And as we work away there into 7, 8 in the morning, still kind of wants to blossom some things with some more drier time through the day. So again, I like to say take it with a grain of salt, especially that was my first time looking at it. Usually I like to look at a model before I show you guys something on air, because if it doesn't represent what I think is going to happen in the forecast, then I got to show something else. So that's what we're looking at here. Let's go back to winds and see how strong our winds are, if they've come up or they've come down. Definitely a heavier thunderstorm there from Farmington to Prairie Grove to Lincoln to West Fork to Winslow, and basically just southern Washington County. That's what we're looking at here. And if we look at our storm winds, again, we're looking at where those bright greens are, where the strongest winds are coming out of that storm. And so while this area is severe, this area isn't necessarily, it doesn't mean though there's no wind gust out of it. It still just means though that maybe we're not seeing 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I think that was a voice crack there. Between West Fork and Winslow there, you kind of see where those bright greens are. Again, if you've watched, been watching the last 30 to 45 minutes, those winds have come down just a little bit. So we're still seeing, some stronger wind gust potential with that. And if folks are, not concerned but curious on maybe how strong winds are, again, 40 to 50 miles an hour. And that's what the Weather Service has been saying. So kudos to them for kind of measuring that and kind of giving us a heads up. That's pretty much what checks out on radar right now across Washington County and also northern Crawford County as well. Probably seeing some stronger wind gusts as well northwest of Mountainburg. So here's Van Buren area. Here's Alma. Rudy would be in this vicinity as well. So strongest winds that haven't necessarily reached you yet. But we still could be seeing some gusty winds here over the next maybe 15 to 20 minutes as we're looking at the storm. Now we'll get you back to reflectivity here. And this is what we're looking at from we'll do a last hour radar loop to kind of give you guys a sense on where this thunderstorm is moving. And definitely have to be concerned for some flooding potential, especially in Adair County from Stillwell to Westville. I know we had a few folks in Westville, so if you're watching from Westville or Stillwell or even Lincoln for that matter, if you're in a flood-prone area, I would, keep monitoring the situation, because the heavy rainfall, the storm is just not going to fizzle out like that. It's going to, take some time. But something I'm noticing is that there's a little bit more activity starting to bubble up between Mountainburg and Winslow. And it looks like it continues to kind of surge its way southeastward across northern Crawford County and then also here in northern Franklin County across the higher terrain of the Ozarks. So that'll be interesting to kind of see where that trajectory takes it. Maybe not necessarily severe winds potentially, but still some gusty winds. There's that little gust front kind of surging just north of Alma. Kind of see that there on the radar. There it is. When I say gust front, we're not talking about a big 70-mile-an-hour gust of wind. We're probably talking about maybe, some 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts, just like some rain-cooled air, kind of a gust front there out of this storm. It's almost like a mini cold front, if you will. But that's kind of what we're seeing out there from Mountainburg to Uniontown. And as we're looking at 1222 here at night or in the morning, depending on how you look at it, that continues to surge its way southward. It's going to be in the Alma area. So it's not like a severe gust of wind, but if you're going to be outside, you'll probably start to feel it. Maybe see the trees start to spin outside. But we kind of see the activity north of Mountainburg. It's kind of blossomed up there the last hour. So we'll start to see if more thunderstorms start to blossom up across the higher terrain of the Ozarks here. Here's Sequoia County. If you have anyone watching from South Salt to Muldrow to Roland, we're in the clear right now. A lot of the thunderstorms, the heaviest rain is just to your north. Fort Smith, Van Buren area, it's still off to your north. And I kind of showed you, that model output. And again, we're broadcast meteorologists. We have to show you some sort of output. And sometimes it doesn't exactly do a great idea of actually handling the current state of the atmosphere. So that's kind of always why sometimes we say take it with a grain of salt. And kind of like an instance like this, where it's not necessarily a big line of storms. It's kind of just more, it's just this one complex, really. That's basically all we're talking about and really all we're worried about. But also we've actually had a little bit more activity out towards maybe, say, Henrietta, Oklahoma, so west of Interstate 40, west of Gore, Vian, and Sequoia County. So that's off to your west, a little bit more activity starting to build in. But this complex of showers and storms kind of continues to push its way eastward. This little area is continuing to kind of dive its way southeastward. This area is still moving a little bit further southeast, a bit more development there in that severe thunderstorm warning. But we're kind of just zoomed out, big picture right now to just kind of show you guys not a big part of the area is encompassed in storms or even let alone severe weather. It's just one severe thunderstorm warning, and that is until 12:45 in the morning, so another 20 minutes of this severe thunderstorm warning. So we'll see if they can continue or extend that one. But our winds have started to pulse down a little bit in northern Crawford and southern Washington County right now. And that's what we're looking at right now. We'll zoom in a little bit closer for you guys, what we're looking at here. So there's Devil's Den State Park. It's been raining probably the last half hour, some heavy rainfall as well. Here's Winslow, 71 goes all the way down to Lake Fort Smith State Park. And then if you're to continue 71 northbound, you would get into West Fork behind this little banner. So here's 49, take this exit to get to Devil's Den State Park. So here's the little exit for Devil's Den State Park, or to get to Winslow for that matter, getting pelted with some heavy rain, some lightning. That extends into Lake Fort Smith State Park. And again, here's the Washington-Crawford County line. So Washington County, Crawford County, Van Buren to our south, Alma's to our south. White Rock Mountain is pretty much right near my thigh right now. So heads up near White Rock Mountain. We're going to be seeing that heavier thunderstorm out there. And again, I'd like to show you some RDOT cameras, but it's the middle of the night. You only rely on so much, thunder and lightning. I'm not sure how telling that's going to be. I feel like maybe radar just might be a better visual for you guys there. Kind of want to look just from our Fayetteville camera. Sometimes we can see some better lightning from that since we can kind of rotate it. Now it looks like we're looking south here into that storm. I'm going to hold off taking the Fayetteville camera real quick. There's that thunderstorm there. See how there's a little bit more activity starting to kind of feed into the storm. This little cluster kind of moved its way in just northwest of Greasy. Here's Stillwell. We've just been getting pelted in Stillwell and even Christie and Westville for that matter. So again, still watch flooding, but kind of see how this little area cluster is kind of feeding into the storm. So very heavy rainfall rates, and almost as we're looking at this hour radar loop, almost looks like a little bit of more of a southerly trajectory. It almost looked more like west to east. Maybe the storm is getting shunted a little bit further southward through time. So we'll have to watch that in terms of the general trajectory of it, because that could include parts of Sequoia County, of course, parts of Crawford County as well. No updates to pass along across the National Weather Service. What I could do is show you guys some rain accumulation, what the radar is estimated. Let's see if this works here. So this is what we're looking at here, 12-hour rain estimates. Going to be probably a little bit behind. But if I kind of zoom in a little bit closer here, we have been absolutely pelted. There's that flash flood warning. This is kind of what we're talking about there near Tahlequah. And thank you to my producer for giving me a bottle of water. I was definitely needing that. So shout out producer for that. But here's kind of a look at the 12-hour rain estimate. That's why we're looking at that flash flood warning just west of Adair County. And to kind of give you an idea on why I was a little concerned about this is because we're looking at 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. And it might not seem too crazy, but we're looking at this rainfall falling in a short period of time. And we're talking about less than an hour. And here's where that flash flood warning is. We've gotten over 2 inches of rainfall. And so that's certainly a little concerning when that falls in a short period of time. Here's Lincoln Prairie Grove area. If you're curious on maybe what the radar has estimated so far, and it's still raining, and you still have a long ways to go. Almost an inch already in Lincoln and Prairie Grove. So that just kind of goes to show you, in case you don't want to check your rain gauge outside right now, just getting pelted with heavy rainfall. So that's a look at the rain. You know, we'll have to, again, keep our eye on the flash flooding potential there. There's those thunderstorms really starting to blossom in northern Crawford County. Kind of see that there. Let's give you guys a loop, kind of show you guys what I'm talking about here. There we go. From Winslow to Mountainburg, that's where that thunderstorm is kind of continue to blossom. Maybe not necessarily severe thunderstorm winds, but it continues to kind of dive its way southward. So for maybe along and just north of Interstate 40 or along Interstate 49 between Mountainburg and Alma, we'll have to watch this, but this is kind of getting into northeastern Crawford County. Here's northern Franklin County. And of course, here's Washington County. So there's that heavy rainfall. We still got to get through this big cluster of storms. And again, we just showed you that radar estimated rainfall at Tahlequah is still getting just an absolute tropical downpour right now. And that continues into Adair County. So we'll see if this gets replaced with a flash flood warning. All right, we got a severe thunderstorm warning right now, but still got to be concerned for that flash flooding potential. No issues to talk about here, or not no issues, no updates to pass along. But here's some of that more residual activity I was kind of showing you guys. So here's Sequoia County, here's Gore, Muskogee, Chakotah, Henrietta off on the far side of your screen. There's that more of that development that kind of continues to kind of blossom its way northeastward. So we'll have to watch this as it kind of pushes its way in this general direction. And of course, this heavier complex of storms, that's going to dictate who sees that heavier thunderstorm out of this area here. So that's what we're looking at right now. I need water real quick. I've got to use some water on the last time I was on here, which was Saturday night. Yeah, that's awkward. I can't even open it. That's awkward. I'm going to keep talking while I try to open this. I'm going to maybe find a towel so I can get a better grip or better traction on this. All right, I don't know what this is. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. While I'm just catching my breath, getting some water. Going to be checking some comments real quick, see if I've missed anything or if we have any pressing concerns right now. Okay. Someone wants to know, how's it looking in Huntsville? It's not raining in Huntsville right now, and the biggest cluster of storms is here southwest. So here's the Huntsville and St. Paul area in Madison County. So this is still off to our southwest. We still got to watch this cluster though, as it's showed some signs of moving east, maybe a little bit of a southeasterly trajectory here. So we'll watch that here. But if we're in Huntsville right now, we're all good to go. I don't think we have anything to worry about for the time being. We just got to watch this cluster. It was moving east, but the latest data has suggested maybe it starts to slowly move its way southeastward through time. So we'll keep our eye on that. And someone wants to know, is Crawford County going to see tornadic weather? I hope not. But no, to answer your question there, we're just not concerned about tornadic potential. It just looked very, very low to begin with, and it continues to kind of trend lower. Sometimes when you can see tornadic potential start to increase in the evening and at night, we refer to a low-level jet, which basically just is like a mini jet stream, but it's not at jet airliner height. It's more about 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. And it usually kicks in at night, and sometimes I can enhance the low-level rotation. When I forecasted earlier, our low-level jet was very, very weak. And so it just wasn't really going to be playing a factor in terms of any rotation or any tornadic potential. So it looks very, very low at this point. So if you're concerned about Crawford County, of course we're going to be here. We're not going to go anywhere. Even if something crazy were to happen, for example, like on Saturday, even if something were crazy to happen, we'll be here to monitor it, but it's not something that we're really worried about over the next few hours. So someone brings up a very interesting and a very real question. Is it going to flash flood in Stillwell? There's certainly a potential there. In fact, as I take my last drink of water, we'll actually look at Stillwell, and we've been getting pelted right now if we're in Adair County and Stillwell. So I would be concerned for some flood potential. Whoever sent that comment, if you live in a flood-prone area, let's just be on the lookout because we've just been seeing some heavy torrential rainfall in this same area from Christie to Stillwell to near Westville area, Tahlequah. That's this flash flood warning. That's where this little red polygon is. I know it looks like a tornado warning. It's a flash flood warning. Here's that severe thunderstorm warning that goes until another 10 minutes. That was for some stronger wind gusts, up to 60-mile-an-hour winds. But I think right now we're just really concerned about just the heavy rain potential. It's just been raining really hard. In fact, Adair County, a lot of these locations have already picked up well over an inch of rainfall. And the rain's not stopping anytime soon. So we have to watch flooding potential in Stillwell, Christie, even near the Lincoln area. We might be getting a little bit of a break in terms of light rainfall, but look what's just off your west. This continues to work its way eastward. So we got to be on the lookout for that there. So a great question there. Someone's wanting to know, is there a future track? Yes, I did show a future track about 20 minutes ago. And I don't know if I want to show it again because I'm not sure if it exactly had a great handle on the current state of the atmosphere right now. In fact, if I zoom out, it didn't exactly handle this cluster of storms. Now, I could show you a different model to maybe see, but it's really just this big cluster of storms. That's all what we're looking at here. And if the computer model doesn't necessarily show that at 1 in the morning, then it basically means that, it's maybe not handling the current state of the atmosphere. So since we're wondering, what the latest future cast is we're waiting for that severe thunderstorm warning to potentially expire here in 10 minutes. As we're kind of just waiting it out, we'll show you guys future cast here and kind of get you guys a look on what we're going to be seeing here. So this particular model run goes a little bit further out. So here we go. This is a different model run. It's a little bit better. 1 in the morning. We'll take it. There's that little cluster of storms. Could be a little bit bigger, but we're kind of being a little nitpicky right now. So there's 1 in the morning as that cluster of storms kind of continuing. Not sure about this activity. We didn't have anything popping up there. We'll go through time here. Here's 2 a.m. It shows it weakening. And while there's been some signs of a little bit of weakening, we still have that heavy rain potential regardless. Here's 3 a.m. Here's 4 a.m. Here's 5 a.m. So it shows that little cluster of storms that we've been tracking. It shows it weakening. And while, yes, it could be weakening, I don't know if it completely vanishes by, 2 in the morning, kind of like what this feature cast shows. So that's kind of why I like to say, take it with a grain of salt. Here's 6, 7, 8 in the morning. Still maybe a few showers and storms, especially across parts of the river valley that we have to talk about there for Friday morning. So I don't think it's going to be necessarily widespread, for the morning drive in the river valley. We could be dodging a few of those thunder showers out there. We wouldn't be expecting severe weather with this, though, but we could be dodging some heavy downpours. I think it's a lower potential, though, for northwest Arkansas. So that's kind of a look at future track for whoever just asked that. Let's jump back to radar here because that's what we all want to know, what we all want to see here. Okay. So I don't have any new updates to pass along. But man, it's just been raining and storming over the same exact area. I mean, when I started this live stream at a little after 11 p.m. roughly, I mean, we started this live stream, it was still storming and raining in this area, and it still is storming for like an hour. So, yeah, definitely a little concern there for areas like Stillwell up to Westville near Lincoln. There's that cluster of thunderstorms near Tahlequah. That's that flash flood warning. And we'll continue to kind of watch this little cluster of storms and see how it behaves. And even if that severe thunderstorm warning gets dropped here in 8 minutes, that's when it expires, is 8 minutes at 12:45 in the morning. Even if it gets dropped, we still have to watch the potential for still some gusty winds below severe criteria. But of course, some flooding potential as well, especially as we're kind of getting to the higher terrain of the Ozarks here. And that kind of extends into Adair County as well. So that's what we're looking at here. And I kind of want to loop this, see if this has showed any signs of moving a little bit southeast. Yeah, again, it still moves more of an easterly with a slight southeasterly trajectory. And really the reason why I'm doing a radar loop, an hour radar loop, is to see how areas in the river valley are going to be impacted by this. Because if the storm's moving, due west to east, then right, it misses the river valley. But if it moves more southeastward, then of course it clips Fort Smith, Alma, Van Buren area. And that's what we got to watch. Obviously, that would get some very heavy rainfall, even some flooding concerns as well. National Weather Service has updated us with another update here. I'm going to read this and kind of see what they want to pass along real quick. Okay. So the National Weather Service is saying that our wind gusts from this line of storms here in Washington County has come up just a little bit in the last few scans, especially in Adair County. So really this cluster area actually have come up just a little bit, which basically just means that we're looking at the what the radar is measuring in terms of the winds that are just coming out of the storm. If they've come up a little bit, that means our winds have strengthened a little bit near that Adair Washington County line. But since we're looking from the Fort Smith radar, we're looking about 2,000 to 3,000 feet in the atmosphere. So it's not necessarily ground truth, right? I mean, if you're at the ground, you want to know what the winds are going to be at your house. No one cares what's happening 2,500 feet in the atmosphere. So that's what the radars estimate those winds aloft in the atmosphere near this Washington Adair County line. The National Weather Service is saying they're not going to issue a severe thunderstorm warning at this moment. They're going to keep a close eye on it, though. And if it were to exceed that 60-mile-an-hour threshold potentially, they could maybe issue another severe warning over these same areas across Washington and Crawford County. So we're going to wait over the next 5 to 10 minutes, see if that happens, see if those winds would come up. And if those winds do come up, then we have to talk about some damaging wind potential once again in the next several minutes. So let's kind of keep our eye on that. We'll get another update here in the next several minutes. There's where that thunderstorm is continuing to kind of push its way through. Things are kind of blossoming across northern Crawford County, near the Uniontown, just north of Uniontown, out towards Mountainburg, Lake Fort Smith State Park. So these are just general run-of-the-mill heavier thunderstorms with those heavier downpours. Lake Fort Smith State Park, if we have any campers there, we're getting some heavy rainfall. So it can be a little interesting if you're out in a tent camping in this. Maybe not the most ideal camping weather. West Fork to Winslow continues some of those heavier downpours. Again, a lot of the web cameras we have are either in Fort Smith, Poteau, Ozark, which are pretty far enough from these storms also, or they're either in northwest Arkansas, also away from the storm. So this cluster is kind of splitting this area. So otherwise, I would show you kind of a web camera to kind of see what we're seeing out there, but that's kind of what we're talking about with this cluster of storms. This severe thunderstorm warning goes until 12:45 in the morning, so about another 4 minutes. And that's what we're going to be looking at here. We are not under a severe thunderstorm watch or a flash flood watch or a tornado watch. Here's our current watches. We had a severe thunderstorm watch earlier, which just means conditions could be favorable over the next several hours to see a severe thunderstorm or two. And that's just not the case right now. We had that watch that did get expired. Now, just because you don't have a watch doesn't mean you can't get a severe thunderstorm warning. You can get a rogue 1 or 2 severe thunderstorm warnings, and that's kind of what we've seen here the last hour or two. And again, not a lot of updates to pass along unless you guys have questions or concerns, which I don't see any more questions or concerns. And maybe that's some good news. Hopefully I answered your questions. If not, then maybe I'm not doing my job. But again, if you have any questions, I'm not on YouTube right now. I'm on Facebook. That's where I can see the chat. And so if you have any questions, please direct them to the Facebook live stream, as this is what we're looking at here. It'll be interesting to see if they reissue the severe thunderstorm warning and extend it a little bit further east. We'll look at winds, actually. And that's actually something we haven't looked at in a little bit. So here's a little lesson for you guys. So you're gonna be confused. Why is it switching from green to red? What's going on here? We're switching from radar sites. So here's the Fort Smith radar. We expect to see green, right? The wind coming out of the storm going towards the Fort Smith radar. But if I tilt a little bit further north, now we're looking from the Tulsa radar, which is way over here, right? So now our winds are going away from the radar. That's because those storms are pushing from west to east. So that's what we're looking at there. Again, on that Washington Adair County line, we've been talking about you guys for, seems like the last hour. And that continues there. So we'll zoom in there. You can kind of see those bright reds. Oh, so that's kind of a little looks like we're looking from the Fort Smith radar here. Just crossed 59. So here's Oklahoma 59. Runs all the way down through Stillwell, Cherry Tree there. The east side of 59 as we start to get into Washington County here near Morrow, south of Lincoln. That's where those stronger wind gusts are. So here's the state line. And we're measuring winds. And again, keep this in mind, it's a couple thousand feet in the air, up to 50 miles an hour. And, so that's what the Weather Service said they're, watching. There's another 50-mile-an-hour-ish gust. So it's just below severe criteria. Of course, it still includes that severe thunderstorm warning, which is going to be expiring here in the next 10 to 15 seconds. This guy right here, this severe thunderstorm warning. And that'll be interesting to see if they do anything to it. If they just expire it, though, which is what they're going to do. They are going to expire this right now. That's why it dropped off your screen. They're going to reissue, or replace it, I should say, with a special weather statement, which basically just means that we could be seeing wind gusts of 50 to 55 miles an hour. That's what the special weather statement is for. Moving southeast at 25 miles an hour. This area of strong winds right here moving southeast at 25 miles an hour, but it is not severe. It's just below severe criteria. So we're going to hang out for a little bit longer. I don't exactly want to just hop off the live stream and just leave you guys in the dark. No pun intended. Leave you guys in the dark. When we're still watching the potential for the storm to pulse up a little bit. And I'm still going to be here for a little bit longer regardless, so I might as well still talk you guys through it. That's a flash flood warning on the left side of your screen. It's not a tornado warning. It's a flash flood warning. Just some torrential rainfall that we continue to see across Adair County and even parts of Cherokee County in Oklahoma. Just very crazy there in terms of the rainfall. All right, so checking some more comments here. Again, right now, no severe thunderstorm warnings right now. It just got dropped, just expired in Adair County. So there's no severe thunderstorm warning, but it's still enough, right, to wake you up and still drop some torrential rainfall. And I think that's what we have to watch is the flooding potential here. And we've seen some flooding potential the last few days across the area, right? We had Benton County, Sebastian County had some flooding. That was on Saturday night, I believe. Benton County, I believe, was Monday morning. So we've had some flooding here and there. So we still got to watch this area for some flooding. So we got someone watching near Stillwell. And yeah, if you're in Stillwell, I feel for you. It's just a loud thunderstorm right now. It's been loud for the last hour. But nothing is severe at the moment. Still some gusty winds with these. Hail potential is very low. In fact, we've looked at hail track a few times. Maybe some small hail here and there mixing in, but this is mainly just kind of a gusty wind thing. Someone said, my goats are not happy. Yeah, if I was a goat, I wouldn't be happy either. Someone wants to know, sorry if this has already been asked, but if you're expecting this to come through Fort Smith or miss us to the east. That's a great question. And that's what we've kind of been looking at in terms of this loop, in terms of to see where are these storms going to go. Because they've showed some signs of moving southeast. They've shown some signs of moving east. So if we look at the last hour loop, if we're in Fort Smith, I don't think we're in the clear. If we're in Van Buren, I don't think we're in the clear either. As at least this line of storms continues to shift its way southeastward. So this is near Alma. And here's kind of that gust front. So if actually in Fort Smith, the little gust front's kind of pushing in. It's not a severe line of winds necessarily. It's just kind of some some rain-cooled air, some outflow from these storms kind of rolling through Fort Smith. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. Well, if we look at that 1-hour radar loop, this cluster continues to push its way southeastward. And if we actually look a little bit closely, almost this cluster looks a little bit to slowly be moving east-southeastward. And so that's something to watch because that could give Fort Smith and Van Buren area some very heavy rainfall as well. You kind of see some more redevelopment there on the Sequoia-Adair County line. So overall, if we're watching from Fort Smith or Van Buren and we're maybe wondering when this could reach you guys, this would probably be another close to an hour. And will it be severe? That remains to be seen. Overall severe potential just for the rest of the night is not particularly high. That's why we don't have any severe warnings right now. Now, could we get a storm to pulse up relatively quickly and then we get a quick severe thunderstorm warning? It's possible. But overall, this just goes to show you that we're not seeing severe thunderstorm warnings right now because our severe potential is slowly going to be diminishing through the overnight hours as that typically happens with these type of setups there. Is Mansfield going to get rainfall? So Mansfield, we're going to be in southern Sebastian County here. That's another good question. I think Fort Smith, Van Buren probably have a better chance than Mansfield of seeing some of those thunderstorms out there. But again, with these thunderstorms, I think overall the trajectory takes it southeastward. So it's going to be kind of close in Fort Smith, Van Buren area. Mansfield, we'll see. But the upper level winds would really have to shove this thing way south, just like pretty much due south if it were to hit Mansfield with some heavy rain. Someone's wondering, is Alma area safe to go to bed? So this is what I'm going to tell you guys right now. Right, Mountainburg, Alma. Mountainburg's getting hit with some of these heavier downpours, and as well as Alma. Your phone will sometimes, issue a severe thunderstorm warning. You can get that on your phone. If you want to be on the safe side, have a way of getting warnings. If that's a NOAA weather radio, NOAA, or just having your phone give you alerts, more than happy doing that, and you can do that just to be on the safe side. But overall, I mean, our tornadic potential is just very, very, very low. We haven't seen tornado warnings. We haven't really seen any rotation to talk about either. So I'm just not really concerned about rotation really the rest of the night. And I hate jinxing these things, but I mean, that's just what our little low-level winds kind of look like here. In fact, if we'll jump to our velocities here, it doesn't look like our winds have come up necessarily. And I don't see any areas of rotation. I'm just looking for some bright greens and some bright red couplets really tight together. We just don't really see that. It's just very broad. And that's some good news there. So I'm just not concerned about tornadic potential there. Lots of lightning in Stillwell near the state line. That would check out. Whoa. There's a cool lightning strike on the Slim Chickens camera. I wish I had that pulled up so I could have showed you guys. But so, yeah, if we're in Alma, we're going to get some heavier thunderstorms. Is it possible that we get a severe thunderstorm warning down the road here with this cluster? Yes, it's possible. But, I mean, if it was me, I think we'd be pretty good to go to bed here. But, again, still going to be talking about that heavy rainfall. So you're probably going to get woken up again. And if you want to check back in, if we're streaming, that means, we still got some heavy rain, heavy storms to talk about. If you don't want to check in, you just want to get some sleep, that's fine. We're just not concerned about the tornadic potential really overnight tonight. So that's what we're looking at right now. We're still going to hold on a little bit longer, though, kind of see where these thunderstorms kind of start to move. Actually got a little bit more development here in Sequoia County, north of Salisaw, north of kind of near Vienna area. There's a little thunder showers popping up. So, yeah, we'll have to watch that closely. And here's a 30-minute radar loop. Okay. This is where storms are moving. Okay. Westville, Stillwell, here's Adair County, here's Washington County. We've had a few breaks in the rain there south of Greenland, but we're in West Fork, Winslow, still getting that heavy rainfall there. Someone asked about Alma, right? Probably going to get some heavier thunderstorms, especially just to your north near Mountainburg area. That's what's happening right now. If we're in Adair County, right, we got that heavier thunderstorm still ongoing and still continuing here for the time being. And we'll, of course, kind of watch that here over the next several minutes, even through 1 in the morning. It's gonna wake you up. I mean, with a storm with this much lightning, I mean, it would wake me up. I'm not exactly necessarily a heavy sleeper, but I mean, it would wake me up. In fact, we can kind of actually count how much lightning is in this storm. Oh, wow, that is a holy smokes. I don't know if you guys can see this. All right, where my head is right now, look directly above my head. Lightning strikes, 800 to 1,000 lightning strikes. That is crazy. Just in this whole complex. And lightning's actually come up with this cell. Sometimes an increase in lightning can mean the storm is strengthening. So let's watch this little area as well. And it looks like the general trajectory continues to slowly take its way southeastward. So for instance, Sequoia County, even parts of Crawford County, yeah, we're going to be getting hit with some of those thunderstorms. Right now it's non-severe, but still some gusty winds with these 40 to 50 miles an hour. And the hail potential is pretty low with it. So lots of lightning. Holy smokes. We're almost up to 1,000 strikes just in this little radar image right now. That's a lot of lightning. That's almost the most I've seen since I've been here. It's just a really electrified atmosphere right now. Now, we do have a special weather statement, which just means it's one step below a severe thunderstorm warning. And this is southeast at 20 miles an hour. So although we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings, let's kind of just get a little storm track for anyone watching right now, because we got some people watching from multiple different areas. And it might even wake some people up in the Fort Smith Van Buren vicinity over the next, say, hour. So, you know, we'll kind of watch that here. We don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings, and usually we just kind of hop off the live stream. It's late, right? But I think for now, I think we're gonna kind of continue to keep tracking these, just to kind of see where these go, because it could be moving into a more populated area here. So wind gusts of 50 to 55 miles an hour. And that is for this little guy here. So the Weather Service is saying, yeah, we got some 50 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts potentially with this little area of storms eventually getting into Sequoia County. I kind of want to track that little area out. The lightning is really trended upward there, kind of near Muskogee, north of Gore. The lightning's really come up with that cell, and that sometimes means it's strengthening a little bit. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, so still some gusty winds. Northern Crawford County, Adair County, northeastern Sequoia County, below severe limits though. And if I jump to the radar here, we'll get a little storm track on this. We'll jump to now here. Yeah, wow. Just a ton of lightning. Wow. Let's get a little storm track on this here. All right. 25 miles an hour is what we're going to be drawing this at. Southeastward. Braggs. The Braggs Public School, no one's in school right now, but Braggs Public School at 1:07, so another 10 minutes. Greenleaf Lake State Park, about 1:18 in the morning. 10 Killer Lake Air Park, 1:23. We're looking at evening shade, about 1:40 in the morning. Vian Creek Church, 1:42. Flute Springs, 1:53. And then Marble City, right here, that would be just before 2 in the morning, so about another hour from now. As these storms aren't necessarily moving super fast, we've got to talk about flooding potential. And that's what we're looking at here. In fact, now that we're looking at this, we might even be able to pull up some Fort Smith cameras here. And while I debate on whether I want to do that, let's just go to a few comments right now. How's Rudy, Arkansas looking severe-wise? It's a great question. So the severe potential is low, but it's not zero. Which basically means, right, we're not even under a severe thunderstorm watch. We're not under a tornado watch. So if we're not under a watch, it usually means that conditions aren't as favorable necessarily for severe weather over the next few hours. But we still could get one rogue warning, one rogue severe thunderstorm warning here or there. So that's what we're watching over the next, say, hour. But if we're in Rudy, it's starting to rain a little bit more. You kind of see out towards Crawford County Speedway. We're dry right now, but up towards Dean Springs and up towards Mountainburg, up along Interstate 49, a little bit more heavier downpours as well. And of course, some thunder and lightning, right, with your general run-of-the-mill thunderstorms there. So overall, I think the severe potential is relatively low in this vicinity. Again, and I didn't say it's not zero. When I say low, it doesn't mean zero. It just means that we could get a little storm to pulse up. Maybe gives you, 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts, and that would be enough to maybe issue a severe thunderstorm warning. Right now, that's not the case, but still could be seeing some gusty winds. There's a little thunderstorm that kind of popped up in western Sequoia County, and that's what we're looking at here over the next several minutes. So do you think Paris is going to get anything? Again, great question. Again, lots of people wondering about Ozark, Paris, Farmington. Farmington's still probably raining. Well, the rain is just southwest of Farmington, but we'll have to watch that cluster. I think it's generally going to be moving a little bit further southeastward. And so if this cluster can maintain itself over the next 1 to 2 hours, yes, it could hit Ozark and Paris. And I think it probably does hit Ozark, especially if this little area continues to push its way southeastward. So I do think Ozark will probably get hit with some of those heavier downpours out there. And if that continues to be the case in that southeasterly trajectory, that would put Paris in the path as well. But again, it's not looking like we're going to have a widespread line of severe weather, but we're going to be watching some gusty winds. And the main hazard with this these storms, this cluster, over the next couple hours. So hopefully that answers your question somewhat. But man, that's a lot of lightning between Muskogee and Tahlequah. While we're doing that, and while this is looping here. So here's the radar loop. I'm going to go to some web cameras here on the iPad and maybe see if we can rotate anything. Because Fort Smith, we're going to be able to see some lightning from this cluster. Earlier it was a little bit, earlier it wasn't maybe necessarily as close enough to maybe see that thunderstorm. And so that's what we're going to be looking at here. In fact, as I'm looking at the Fayetteville camera, it had some really cool lightning shots. I'm going to jump to the Fort Smith cameras here. As I'm doing that, the little cluster that I talked about where that lightning came up with that cell, it just went severe thunderstorm warned. That is for Cherokee County, Muskogee County, and clips far northwestern Sequoia County. That's this severe thunderstorm warning where the lightning has really come up. It means usually means that storm's strengthening a little bit. So we'll certainly keep our eye on that there as well. And notice the direction, southeasterly. So Sallisaw could potentially be seeing in the path of this as we have those heavier thunderstorms just to your north in Adair County. Continues to rain very heavy in this vicinity. But overall, as you look over the last half hour, this cluster of storms slowly drifts its way southeastward. So it's getting closer to Alma, getting closer to Fort Smith, and getting closer to Sallisaw as well. So we'll kind of look at that here a little bit. So yeah, before I want to jump to to a web camera, I kind of want to just address this warning. For the most part, it's outside of our viewing area. This is going to be for up to nickel-sized hail and some 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, moving very slow. They had this about south-southeast at 15 miles an hour. So it's going to be near Weber's Falls, but it just takes its sweet old time, though, getting here. That's why we had to talk about the flooding potential. There's those more shower and storms flaring up in Sequoia County there near Vian and Gore. Kind of near Sallisaw. You're probably hearing some thunder and lightning there. And that's what we're looking at here. That severe thunderstorm warning goes until 1:45 in the morning. And the western segment is moving a little bit more southward. So on the left hand of your screen, it's moving a bit more southward. We could see an increase in that wind potential there across northern Sequoia County. So while I said that severe potential is lower, it's not necessarily zero. We could still get 1 or 2 severe warnings to still happen. And that's what we still got to watch here the next hour. Okay. All right, so Almost looks like a little bit of rotation there. This is outside of our coverage area. Near the Braggs area. Oh, looks like the new radar scan almost looks like to have come down a little bit. Looks like there's some little areas of broad rotation, kind of along the Arkansas River here north of Braggs. Again, this is outside of our coverage area. And just something that kind of caught my attention. Here's Sequoia County. So evening shade, Vian, Sallisaw would be kind of near my knee. So that was just a little something that caught my eye. Looks like it's trended down with the latest scan. So we'll keep our eye on it a little bit there. That would be across western Sequoia County. Yeah, so those heavier thunderstorms continue there across northern Sequoia County, northern Crawford County, right? And it looks like this cluster is slowly moving its way southward. So we might get some more people starting to tune in the live stream if this is going to wake some folks up. If I was sleeping, this would wake me up. Lots of thunder and lightning, especially in this cell. That's our severe thunderstorm warning. All of this little area kind of starting to bubble up in northern Sequoia County, even the large majority of Crawford County as well. So Alma to Rudy, probably starting to get some rainfall here momentarily. And while we're doing that here, I want to pull up some Fort Smith cameras because, I mean, here's Fort Smith. Here's this cluster of storms. We're going to be able to see this guy slowly drifting its way southeastward. Earlier, this cluster was moving from west to east, and part of it was moving southeast. Now it looks like it's slowly drifting its way southward. And of course, that's why I kind of talk about these computer model simulations. Right now, we're just nowcasting. So forget the computer model. We basically have to look at the a loop of this storm and kind of see where the general storm motion is taking it. And it looks like this is more of a southeasterly trend now within the last 30 minutes. So we'll jump to some Fort Smith cameras here. Yep, someone says noisy. Wherever you're watching from, I'm sure it is very noisy, as there's just a lot of lightning. I mean, it's probably some of the most lightning I've probably seen since I've done a live stream. But although we don't necessarily keep track every time. Okay. So, sorry, I don't mean to ignore you guys. Just kind of rotate some of these cameras on this iPad here and see if we can kind of look into the storm here. We'll look at the Mercy Fort Smith camera. Before I show it to you guys, I got to rotate this guy here. So I'm just going to have radar pulling up here for you guys. And someone said no power in Farmington. That's where those heavier thunderstorms pushed through a little bit earlier. So I'll have to check some power outages here momentarily if we're getting some power outage reports in the live stream. Okay. We can't really see a whole lot from the Mercy Fort Smith camera other than a little bit of lightning here and there. We can look at our other Fort Smith camera here. Okay. Yeah, let's look at this here. All right, so we're rotating this camera. We're looking about northwest. Let's see if we can see anything here, and I'll pull it up behind me. Yeah, not a ton that we can necessarily see. I'll pull this up for you guys here. Yeah, the deluge continues for Adair County and even northern Sequoia County. Now Cedarville's getting in on that heavy rain. Include Alma in that, as well as Rudy. And look how this rain's kind of just spreading out, like almost like fingers off a hand. Kind of this rain just spreads out. So Van Buren's going to get close to these heavier downpours. Fort Smith as well. Right now, this isn't severe for the time being. We're going to have to watch it, though. And let me pull up one of the Fort Smith cameras. So this is going to be the Fort Smith ACHE camera. If I can find it here. All right, here we go. All right. So we're going to look in northwest, that cluster of storms. And it would appear, I'm going to wait for lighting to illuminate this shot real quick. it would appear, yeah, oh yeah. If this was daylight, this would be a really cool shot. It would appear that we got a nasty shelf cloud kind of coming out of this storm here. They're kind of looking northwest there. So again, I explained this a little bit earlier. Shelf cloud's harmless, just means some rain-cooled air, then it rises and kind of forms this little cloud, kind of makes a little shelf. And that's exactly pretty much what we're seeing out there. And behind this little shelf cloud, again, if it was a daytime, it would be a really cool shot if this was 1 p.m. in the afternoon, not 1 in the morning. But behind this little shelf cloud here, you kind of see the little bright colors, is all that heavy rain and all those gusty winds. So we'll keep our eye on this camera there. Obviously, the lightning sometimes illuminates that little shelf cloud there, and that's kind of what we're seeing. And this is looking from our Mercy Fort Smith, or not Mercy Fort Smith, excuse me, our Fort Smith ACHE camera, as we're pointing that into the storm, just that shelf cloud that you can kind of see there. So yeah, that's what we're looking at there. And let's get back to radar here. There we go. There's that outflow from those storms, just south of Interstate 40. Here's that little gust front there. This little thin green line. You kind of see that there from Salsall to Muldrow to Fort Smith to near Lavaca up to near Ozark. There's that gust front, and that rain-cooled air kind of pushing out from these storms. And that's where that heavier cluster of storms. So just some classic summertime downpours with this in northern Crawford County. It's not severe at the time being, but man, there's a lot of lightning. And someone's still hearing thunder as far away as Lowell, which is still pretty far away, but there's still a couple lightning strikes in northwest Arkansas right now. There's that severe thunderstorm warning that clips parts of northwestern Sequoyah County. It goes until, I believe, 1:45 in the morning. So we'll kind of tackle that here a little bit later, but really that's our focal point is from Stillwell to Greasy to, say, Uniontown to Cedarville to Alma. That's where that heaviest rainfall is still falling there. And let's jump to excuse me. Yeah, our winds here. Winds from the storm again. We're looking from the Fort Smith radar site. Nothing is necessarily jumping out, although we probably had some gusty winds near Uniontown. That's where their brightest greens are. And if you're curious, 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts potentially with this. So it's just below severe criteria. So still some gusty winds with this. And if you're in Van Buren, maybe Fort Smith, Alma, probably going to be seeing some of these gusty winds as well, 40 to 50 miles an hour. And that's enough to bring some small tree branches down. Again, it's not severe criteria. We would need the wind to trend a bit more upward. And we don't want that necessarily. We want the wind to continue to kind of trend downward. So it's just below severe criteria there along the Sequoyah County, Crawford County line there. Those wind gusts are kind of looking a little gusty there with some of those bright greens. So that's what we're looking at there. I'm keeping my eye on the ACHE camera, and we can see that shelf cloud as it kind of gets a little bit closer to the camera. So I might pull it up here in a couple minutes as we're going to be kind of looking northwest in this storm. Let's jump back to reflectivity. Okay. It'll be interesting to see if this little gust front that I kind of showed you guys encounters this little cluster storm. Now, does this cluster kind of blow up right on top of Sallisaw? That'll be interesting to kind of see the next few minutes. Sometimes it kind of acts as another forcing mechanism. It really forces some more of that updraft up, and you can produce a bit of a heavier thunderstorm near Sallisaw. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Here's Brushy, here's Greasy. It's just been an absolute deluge. I wouldn't be surprised if we have 2-3+ inches of rain that's already fallen in these areas. And again, that's just some very heavy rainfall. There's that flash flood warning there west of Adair County near Tahlequah, and it's just still raining super hard. And Tahlequah has been raining very hard in this vicinity. So we got to watch some flash flooding potential in this area. In fact, I'll circle it for you guys, and we might talk about some radar estimates rainfall here. I just lost my train of thought. I've been talking for like 2 hours. What was I just going to do? Okay, that's right. We were going to circle an area. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Yeah, just some. I'd be just concerned about some flooding potential, and just in this area. That's just where our heaviest rain's been falling since I've been doing this live stream, and it still continues to rain very heavy in these same areas as these storms are going to slowly drift their way eastward and southeastward. So it continues to kind of hit Alma, Mountainburg, and it's going to be eventually hitting Ozark as well with some of these showers and storms. Still raining pretty hard there in Winslow to Mountainburg. Let's get this little oval weird shape off the screen. And so someone is asking about the Muldrow area, some strong wind gusts, and actually that's a great observation. Probably seeing some strong wind gusts because there's that gust front. There's that little alpha, this little thin green line. It's kind of a little bit harder to see now. It kind of came out of that storm. That's when you start to see those gusty winds from Lavaca to Fort Smith, here to Muldrow. That's probably what you're seeing is some of those gusty winds coming out of that storm. But right now, the rain is still, the bulk of the rain and storms is just to your north if you're in Muldrow. But yeah, definitely some gusty winds there. And yeah, I mean, it's just that one cell that's still severe, just west of Sequoia County. So here's that severe thunderstorm warning. This one is more of a southeasterly trajectory there, although maybe the last few minutes it almost continues to move its way a little bit more further east. So that's what we're kind of looking at with some of these thunderstorms. Southsaw, we're going to get hit with a heavier downpour if there's anyone watching from Southsaw. That one's non-severe, though. This is all non-severe. Still some gusty winds, though. And seeing if we have any updates to pass along to you guys. That's a cool shot. I think I'm going to pull up the Fort Smith ACHE camera here real soon. It's a really cool shot. Yeah, so we got a stronger thunderstorm impacting southwestern Adair and southern Cherokee counties through 1:45 in the morning. So we'd be talking about this guy right here. This is moving east at 30. So this has some gusty winds of 50 to 55 miles an hour. So I think everywhere in this storm, although it's not severe with this cluster right here behind me, although it's not severe, we still should be prepared for 50 to 55 mile an hour wind gusts, which is enough still to bring some tree limbs down, at least some smaller tree limbs. And so we still have to watch that. But also it's been kind of a saturated ground in the Fort Smith area with all that rain, although we had this past weekend. So sometimes if you have kind of a dying tree or just a dead tree, you have like a really soft, saturated ground. Sometimes it takes, it can take 50 mile an hour winds and it can topple that tree. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Even though we don't see severe thunderstorm warnings here, it's something to kind of that we're going to be watching across the area. So now we're focused in on the Fort Smith area. Earlier is a bit more in northwest Arkansas. There's still some lightning there, all along Interstate 49. If we're in the Mulberry area, we're seeing some heavier downpours, and then even the Ozark probably going to be getting some of those heavier showers and storms as we're going to be watching this cluster continue to work its way southeastward. Earlier, I showed you guys a future cast, and I said take this with a grain of salt because it just had it weakening by like 2, 3 in the morning. This is a pretty big cluster of storms. It doesn't exactly weaken necessarily. That's why I say take it with a grain of salt because we, as broadcast meteorologists, we have to show you something on air. Can't just be like, oh, yep, well, there's going to be some storms in the area. We have to show you some visual product. Even if we don't necessarily agree with it, we got to show you guys something. And that's what we're kind of looking at there. But yeah, this cluster of storms continues to just drop some heavy rain. And I want to pull up this camera here. Wow. This is a really cool shot, guys. So there's the radar. Get a good look at it, get a good grasp on it. I'm going to pull up a web camera here real quick. Wow. So yeah, this is a kind of a cool shot. Here it is. Let's see if lightning can illuminate this. This is our Fort Smith ACHE camera. Wow, yeah, look at that. This shelf cloud and just the heavy rain and even some gusty winds on the backside of this. A little bit more lightning. Oh. So we're kind of looking into the storm there. City lights there in the background of the horizon. And we'll see if, here we go, yeah. So every time lightning kind of illuminates it, you can kind of see that shelf cloud. Again, shelf clouds are harmless. It's indicative of some gusty winds coming out of a storm, and you sometimes see that with a cluster of storms or a line of storms, and so it's pretty typical what we should be seeing. This would probably be a pretty cool shot if we saw this during the daytime. It'd probably be a cool shot. This is 1 in the afternoon, maybe not 1 in the morning, and that's where that thunder and lightning kind of continues to illuminate the area there in the background, and you kind of just see the lighter contrast with the darker contrast. With the lighter contrast, there's that shelf cloud, and the darker contrast below that, the heavy rain, the gusty winds just below that. And every time the lightning illuminates it, it's a pretty cool shot. It looks like it's gotten a little bit closer to our area. That makes sense, though, because that's what we've been seeing as that thunderstorm kind of continues to drift its way a little bit closer to Van Buren and Fort Smith. We were kind of talking about, well, we had that potential there, and that's what we're going to be looking at here. So yeah, I kind of mentioned that little Sallisaw cell kind of blew up a little bit with that outflow, kind of acted as some more forcing mechanism. So that's where that little Sallisaw cell's kind of come up a little bit. It's not severe, but definitely a heavier downpour there, kind of near the reservoir, north of Brent area. Northern Sequoia County, northeastern Sequoia County, Crawford County just continues to get hammered and slammed there. There's that one severe thunderstorm warning near the Braggs area. That's outside of our coverage area, but it's going to be working its way into western Sequoia County here in the next several minutes. Kind of curious here to see, what our velocities are doing here. Earlier, about 20 minutes ago, I kind of mentioned a little weak area of rotation near Braggs. This is outside our coverage area here. Sequoia County, Fort Smith would be over here. Again, pretty broad area circulation. Nothing that would warrant a tornado warning or anything like that, but it's just something that, I'm keeping in the back of my mind. Again, the tornado potential was very low to begin with later tonight. We just haven't really seen a whole lot of rotation, and I hope that continues because I have some PTSD covering tornado warnings, especially in the River Valley. It's always the River Valley when I'm here by myself. Something crazy always happens, and hopefully we can break that streak. But that's just west of Sequoia County. Now we're looking at our Fort Smith radar here. Some stronger wind gusts though, near Van Buren, the Crawford County Speedway. If you're curious, or we're a little bit closer to the ground, so we maybe can get to a little bit of closer ground truth. Gusts up to 40 miles an hour. I think our winds have probably come down just a little bit. So that's why we're not seeing any severe thunderstorm warnings for our area, but 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, still enough to, move your car out, especially if you're going to Interstate 40 as those winds are coming towards that radar site there in Fort Smith. Let's jump back to reflectivity here. And you have to wonder if people in Fort Smith and Van Buren are hearing some thunder and lightning out of this, because that cluster of storms gets a little bit closer here. So someone was asking about Braggs. I just showed Braggs a little bit ago. Let's get a radar loop of this. It is 1:21 in the morning. Still tracking these thunderstorms. We don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings for our coverage area. I mean, technically this warning polygon includes Sequoia County. Lots of lightning and lots of thunder with that. I mean, just a really electrified storm. Sal saw that little guy's kind of blown up there. It's non-severe. Muldrow, it's not raining. We've had some gusty winds. We were definitely hearing some thunder, and I would have to bet there in the Fort Smith area, you're probably hearing some thunder and lightning as well. In Van Buren, it's probably starting to rain a little bit harder as well, especially in downtown Van Buren there. Some heavier rainfall starting to push its way in. So now we're starting to see a bit more of a southerly trajectory, or a south trajectory. You guys get the idea of these thunderstorms as they start to get into Fort Smith, Van Buren, Alma. Here's Mountainburg. It's just been raining very hard, but notice in the last 30 minutes, this cluster of rain, instead of moving from west to east now it continues to shift its way a little bit further south. Meanwhile, these little cluster of storms continue to kind of get shoved into these. So we got, storms kind of moving in a little bit different directions right now. So that's what we're looking at right now. That's a flash flood warning. If you're just now joining us, that's a flash flood warning, not a tornado warning. That's a flash flood warning there near the Tahlequah area. Just one severe thunderstorm warning. This goes to 1:45 in the morning, so about another 20 minutes of this. And if you're concerned about hail, I don't necessarily think we need to be concerned about hail. It's just been a very low potential. It's just been mainly kind of a wind event. But as we kind of look at this storm, it is going to be distributing probably at least a little bit of hail. In fact, so far tonight, since we've done a live stream, this is probably our biggest, or at least our largest hail core that we've talked about, just outside of Sequoia County. So it could be clipping western Sequoia County with some hail there. Overall, most of our cells have not been exhibiting a lot of hail necessarily. It has been more smaller hail, so like pea-sized, nickel-sized hail. But that's kind of near the Braggs area. So we had someone watching from the Braggs area. We might be seeing a little bit of hail here. If you're in the Braggs area near the Arkansas River, or just east of the river in the Braggs area. So probably seeing a little bit of hail out there. If you're in Paradise Hill, heads up, could see a little bit of hail out of this as this continues to work its way southeastward as it starts to enter a little bit into Sequoia County. Yeah, so we've had some flooding reports near the Tahlequah area. They've just been hit with a deluge of rain. In fact, we've had reports of water over roadways due to a creek flooding, and so that's in Tahlequah, so just outside our viewing area. You kind of see that there in that red polygon, that flash flood warning. We'll jump here to that storm, and yeah, just a heavier thunderstorm there pushing through Sallisaw. Anything we need to know in Fort Smith? We're going to get hit with some heavy rainfall, some thunder and lightning in the Fort Smith and Van Buren area as this cluster continues to drift its way a little bit further south. And I showed you guys earlier a camera view of a shelf cloud near the Fort Smith vicinity. And I might pull it up again, just to kind of give you guys a... So it looks like we got a little bit of confusion here, so I just want to clear up some confusion in the air. This is a flash flood warning. This red polygon right here, that is a flash flood warning, not a tornado warning. No rotation with this, just a flash flood warning. And the reason why it doesn't move is because when all that heavy rain falls, you have all the runoff from the creeks and streams, and so your flooding lasts for 2-3 hours, even after the heaviest rain has fallen. So that's why that flash flooding warning is still going to be on your screen probably for another hour, but it's just outside our coverage area. It's in the Tahlequah area, so that's a flash flood warning. It's not a tornado warning. We don't have any tornado warnings right now, and let's hope that's not the case here in the next couple hours. It's that one severe thunderstorm warning. It's been exhibiting some signs of hail. Probably the updraft's a little bit stronger. Probably the storm cloud top's a little bit higher with this much lightning as well. And so that's what we've kind of been looking at there. And we'll see what this warning is for, if they've updated the hail on this. So they still have up to nickel-sized hail in terms of the hail size, mainly for some gusty winds there for Braggs, Paradise Hill, and Warner. Paradise Hill is the only town in our coverage area that this would include. If we can look at winds here, there's been, some area of very weak broad rotation south of Braggs, but again, it needs to be tighter in order for a tornado warning to be issued. So, it's something we're watching. Again, it's just not something that's eye-opening, but it's something that we're keeping in the back of our mind, is that we're watching there. Western Sequoia County line, but this is also just be some stronger winds kind of contaminating this velocity signature and this velocity signal. So we'll see what the latest scan brings. But yeah, nonetheless, some gusty winds with some of these storms here. And actually some gusty winds getting into the Fort Smith Van Buren area. And I kind of want to sample some of these winds. I want to sample some winds in this area, Fort Smith, Van Buren, so maybe some gusty winds. My guess is around 50 miles an hour, so just below severe criteria. Let's see what we're maybe getting out of here. Yeah, I mean, there you go. Like I said, kind of around 50. That's kind of what I assumed. And some of that, I'd say a good amount of that's probably making it to the surfaces. We're not looking super high off the ground. Again, our radar is in the South Fort Smith area. There's some more 45 to 50 miles an hour. So again, 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts, that's what we're seeing there as those storms push their way southward. And we'll get you back to radar here. Yeah, no, I get why I'm confusing guys. Why the red being a tornado warning. It was just a flash flood warning. So totally get a little bit of the confusion there. Um, but we don't have any tornado warnings. It's just a severe thunderstorm warning, and that's mainly for just outside our coverage area. So now if we're in Alma, we're getting hammered. If we're in Rudy, we're also getting hammered. I told someone in Rudy that they could go to bed earlier, and that's true because this isn't severe, but they're probably having a hard time going to bed. Maybe they're still watching the live stream. I don't know. But as maybe more people start to get on the live stream, I'll kind of circle back and zoom out a little bit to kind of give you a bigger picture on what's going on here. So this is the big picture. This is what we're dealing with. This cluster of storms kind of originated in northwest Arkansas and kind of extended a little bit further west. Slowly pushed its way into Benton County, Washington County, and then it slowly started to drift its way southeastward. Then it's starting to get into the Fort Smith Van Buren area, up to Alma, to Mulberry, and it's just one severe thunderstorm warning. And then this is a flash flood warning. If you're just now joining us, that's a flash flood warning. They've just seen torrential rainfall near Tahlequah, as much as 2 to 3 plus inches of rain, just a short period of time. And that's going to contribute to some flooding areas as well. And so that's what we're going to be looking at here. So if you're now just joining us, the bulk of the lightning right now with the thunderstorm is just starting to clip the western Sequoia County line. And that severe warning goes until 1:45 in the morning. And this is not severe, but still seeing some gusty winds. In fact, we talked about 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts with that storm, kind of near the Van Buren, Fort Smith area. So it's probably loud. You're starting to see some gusty winds. It's not severe though, and so that's some good news. Doesn't mean it can't bring down some small tree limbs and some small tree branches. But that's what we're looking at here as we're starting to get into Fort Smith area. And yeah, that trajectory now is just kind of taking it more of a north to south trajectory right now. That storm over south, so we talked about this earlier, kind of just blew up. A little bit more lightning here towards Greasy. And then here's Muldrow as well. So we're probably going to see some heavier downpours in the Muldrow and Rolling area as well if we're not seeing that already. And now those heavier pockets of some downpours are starting to get into downtown Fort Smith. It's been raining pretty hard in Van Buren as well. So if you're joining us and you're wondering, what is going on right now, we're seeing that heavier thunderstorms starting to push through Adair County. Most of it's moved out of southern Washington County. It's still raining a little bit. Now the focus is Crawford County. We'll probably start talking about northern Crawford County, and eventually Sebastian County continues across the river as well. It's not severe. We've had some gusty winds, 40 to 50 miles an hour. In fact, if we jump to some of our web cameras here, we can pull up some Fort Smith cameras. I wish we had a Sallisaw camera. That'd be cool. Here we go. All right, so this is a Fort Smith ACHE camera that we're pulling up. Oh yeah, there we go. So all the rain and the winds are going to be behind this. Can I see these lighter colors? That's probably the shelf color we're still looking at here with the darker background here, just kind of the rain and just the different cloud contrast in the background. We'll see if lightning can illuminate this here, maybe. And maybe even our lightning has come down a little bit potentially. And so we're still seeing a good amount of strikes out there. And we'll see if we can rotate this camera here. Again, we just have one severe thunderstorm warning, and it's just across western Sequoia County. If it's raining and storming everywhere else, it's not severe. We have not gotten a tornado warning. That was a flash flood warning that I showed you guys earlier. And so we're going to be looking at that here. Yeah, we've had some flooding in Tahlequah. It's just outside our coverage area. We got to be on the lookout for some flooding though in southern Washington, Crawford County, Adair County. Let's a look at the cloud there, but we'll go back to radar here. There we go. So still seeing that cluster. And again, if you're just now joining us, that's a flash flood warning in the northwest part of your screen. If you're watching, you're just going to get annoyed with me saying that. I'm sorry. That's just a flash flood warning. That's what the Weather Service uses for that. For a tornado warning, we would look for a more brighter red color, if that makes sense a little bit. But we don't have to talk about that right now. And hopefully we don't have to talk about it for a long time. We don't want tornado warnings. And if we jump to Sallisaw, seeing some of those heavier downpours right now, that continues into Fort Smith, Dora, as this line continues to kind of surge its way southward. Between Mulberry and Ozark, seeing a couple of those heavier downpours and those heavier pockets of rain. I haven't had any new reports from the National Weather Service to pass along. As we have talked about the last 10 to 20 minutes, we did mention those gusty winds. And if you're just now joining us, we can bring that up. So it's showing up as bright green because this wind is going toward the radar site. So here's the radar site in Fort Smith. The storm has been moving pretty much north to south within the last 30 minutes. And so that's why we're seeing some of those gusty winds in Van Buren and Fort Smith below severe criteria for the time being. And so it's kind of just a good old-fashioned summer thunderstorm that we're seeing in Van Buren and Fort Smith. It might be waking some folks up there as well. So yeah, we're still looking there at these 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts. I haven't necessarily seen anything over 50 recently. And so that's some good news. We'll kind of jump to this cell. The winds don't necessarily look super strong. However, we are now looking from the Tulsa radar site. That's why the wind colors switch, because now we're looking from a different radar beam. And the winds, at least, are a little bit stronger here. We are looking a fair amount up from the atmosphere. It'll be interesting to see if they continue that. We are looking a good amount. We are looking pretty high from the atmosphere across that severe thunderstorm warning that barely eclipsed Sequoia County. And yeah, here's what we're looking at. As more people join in, and I get it. It's kind of maybe hard to sleep in this, and for anyone with storm anxiety, hopefully maybe to calm some nerves, we don't have any severe warnings in our area. Just good old-fashioned heavy downpours right now. We had a couple severe thunderstorm warnings earlier this evening, or maybe about 1 to 2 hours ago. Just decided to stay on as people might be concerned about this heavy rain and even some gusty winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour, as we've been seeing that come to fruition here across the Fort Smith area. So, yeah, just kind of goes to show you that we're going to be seeing that continue as this kind of surges from north to south. We talked about this earlier, this little gust front that originated near the Lincoln area has continued to just surge its way southward. Here's that gust front, south of Pensacola, Greenwood, Charleston, that little light green color. So that's kind of the wind picking up maybe some insects, maybe some leaves, maybe some dust in the air. And that's kind of how it reflects back to the radar as very light things in the atmosphere. That's kind of what it's showing up there. That's a little gust front. So might have to do a little reset here. Yeah, we got some strong gusts on the south side of Fort Smith. We are going to continue the severe thunderstorm warning until 1:45 in the morning. So that's why this is blinking. It continues for 8 more minutes for parts of Sequoia County. This, while it's still a stronger thunderstorm, it's not necessarily severe. And that's some good news. As it continues to rain and storm pretty hard in Fort Smith, Alma, still raining pretty hard in Mountainburg, and even southern Adair County. It's just been a deluge. So why it's not severe, we got to watch some flooding potential as well. We've had multiple flooding reports near the Tahlequah area, which is just outside our coverage area, kind of west of Adair County. And this little thing that's blinking, that is a flash flood warning that is continuing for those areas that have seen heavy rainfall. So that flash flood warning is going to get extended and continue for that part of Oklahoma. That's why it's blinking out there. But not seeing rotation or anything like that. That is a flash flood warning, and we'll zoom in here to Sequoyah County before we'll kind of pull up some web cameras in the Fort Smith area. So Sallisaw, Muldrow. So Sallisaw is getting hit with a heavy downpour right now. Even a couple little thunder showers starting to pop up across the reservoir there as it continues to push its way northeastward. And then here's that severe thunderstorm warning that continues for the next 7 minutes. And yes, we're going to be seeing some gusty winds, some heavy rain. Again, just a general classic summertime thunderstorm that's not necessarily severe. That's what's going on right now. Probably waking a few folks up, and some very heavy rainfall rates with these. Let's get a little radar loop. We'll do an hour radar loop. And there we go. We had someone watching from Northwest Arkansas earlier. Yeah, so for Northwest Arkansas, I think we're pretty much good. Right now, I think this cluster continues to work its way south and eastward. There's a little bit of residual activity right now, but overall the trajectory takes it east and southeast. So overall, this area, that's where that cluster of storms continues. And look at the last hour. These storms were moving from west to east. Now they've just taken a dive south, and that's why it's just moving through Van Buren, moving through Fort Smith, potentially moving into the Greenwood area as well in due time. And it continues to push its way through Lavaca. And you kind of see that there. From Lavaca to Barling to north of Pecola. You're also going to be seeing some of those heavier downpours there. And that's what we're seeing there with those thunderstorms. It's just that one little stronger cluster with a lot more lightning. And something that I want to do, we showed lightning earlier. We had between 800 and 1,000 lightning strikes. I want to pull lightning up again here, and see if our lightning has come down a little bit. Sometimes that means our storms are weakening a little bit. Looks like our Fort Smith cameras are getting pelted with some rain right now. Okay. All right, so we're going to look at lightning. Let's look at this real quick. Okay. So the lightning is just above my head there. So, or just behind my head, about 800 strikes. So it's still a lot. It's maybe come down just a little bit, but still a lot. And we had that severe thunderstorm warning that has been extended. A new one, I guess I should say, has been reissued for the western half of Sequoyah County. We'll zoom in. This might actually include Sequoyah County. Look at all this development out here. The model I showed in this live stream about an hour ago didn't really have any of that development necessarily. So again, that's why I say we'll take these with a grain of salt, as some computer models have a hard time with the current state of the atmosphere. So there's that thunderstorm. All right, this goes until 2:30 in the morning. Luckily, I got some backup coming in to relieve me because I've been here over 12 hours. But we got some Danny's coming in here at 2 in the morning. So looking forward to that. So I can maybe leave and pass the baton off. So here's that severe thunderstorm warning. Goes until Friday at 2. This goes until the next 45 minutes is what I'm trying to say, until 2:30 in the morning. It's for mainly those stronger wind gusts. We've seen some hail with this, but this includes Gore, Sallisaw, Vian, and Weber's Falls as it slices through the western part of Sequoyah County. So it looks like Sallisaw is just outside of it. We're still seeing those heavier downpours continuing, and even look at all this activity starting to fill in across the reservoir. That continues to push its way northeastward. Let's see how fast it's moving. This is going to be moving. All right. Southeast at 20 miles an hour. So we'll get a little storm track on this for parts of Sequoyah County. Again, it's still raining and storming pretty hard here in Fort Smith, Van Buren, but it's not severe. So that's some good news. I mean, once this, like the leading edge of this line starts to push through, I think the severe potential starts to go down, especially once that leading edge hits you. So at least there's some good news there. It's just kind of a loud thunderstorm, maybe a little hard to sleep in. So it's moving southeast at 20. All right, let's get a quick storm track on this here. And here we go. That takes us through the western half of Sequoia County. So evening shade, I mean, pretty much right now. Gore, about 5-6 minutes. Weber's Falls, 7 minutes from now. Pinhook Corner, about 2:01 in the morning. Vian, about 2:04. Vian Creek Public Use Area, 2:15. Salsaw, 2:18. Salsaw Municipal, 2:21. And then Garland School, about 2:25 in the morning. That would be just outside our coverage area, just west of the reservoir area. As this continues to work its way southeastward, regardless, though, even if you're not in that severe warning, it's just a deluge of rainfall across Sequoia County. We'll get that storm track off to you. And, man, it's just raining very hard. I kind of want to do a radar estimated here, but I also want to look at some cameras across the region. Yeah, look how this cluster's just taking a dive south. And so Fort Smith, Van Buren, Alma, it's just getting hit and pelted with some rainfall. So earlier I know we were kind of asking, is Fort Smith, Van Buren? I'd say it was going to kind of be close. I mean, it's not close. It's just nailing you right now. It's not severe, though. The only severe warning is in western Sequoia County. That's a flash flood warning for just now joining us. That's near Tahlequah. It's a flash flood warning. But definitely going to be seeing some of those showers and storms continuing there as we continue to see gusty winds from this thunderstorm across the area. And really the strongest part of the thunderstorm, at least this cluster, is between Fort Smith, Barling, Lavaca, and then kind of near Charleston. I would expect some of this overspreads to near Branch and Coxville as well along the highway going east. Yeah, just a good old-fashioned heavier thunderstorm. This was flashing, so it includes parts of Sequoia County. I think the National Weather Service just has a new update here for us. So the National Weather Service, and let me zoom out a little bit here. The National Weather Service is saying that there is a potential between Braggs and Gore for a little bit larger hail than maybe what the warning is saying. So maybe quarter-sized hail, maybe up to golf ball-sized hail. I think that's we'll say $half-sized hail just to be kind of on the safe side. There's that potential with that storm as it moves into Sequoia County. However, there's likely some melting aloft through the atmosphere, and it's probably just getting mixed in with a lot of heavy rainfall. So I believe it was just flashing a moment ago, and they've probably just updated that warning tag. And we can see what they updated that or upgraded that to. And yeah, so it was under an inch in diameter. Now it's 1.25 inches. So that's $half-sized hail. So like a little bit bigger than a quarter. You guys can see that roughly. That's the potential of the hail there as it works its way into Gore. So we gotta watch that a little bit closely here. And again, if you're watching the Fort Smith, it's just a good old-fashioned thunderstorm. And from Fort Smith to Barling to Lavaca to Van Buren, it just kind of get pelted with that heavy rainfall. But it is non-severe right now, so that's good. But we got that little severe line. Let's look at hail. People are wondering about hail. And notice we're not seeing any hail in Fort Smith, Van Buren, Barling, Lavaca. So no hail with this. It might sound like hail because there's just some very heavy rainfall just falling and probably just pelting your roof or your window for that matter. But what the Weather Service was seeing was this little hail core here. And this is probably the highest it's been since we've been doing a live stream. And this is right on the Sequoia County line north of Gore. So for north of Gore, we got to watch this, but we're not expecting any hail in that Fort Smith area, at least right now, or the Barling area, or Lavaca. Here is a little hail core between Paradise Hill and Gore. So now we're entering Sequoia County. And we can potentially see how big the hail is. All right. Oh, there we go. So it said less than a quarter. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit bigger than that. So yeah, half dollar. That would check out. Right on the county line of Sequoia County. And I believe is that I forget. I'm not sure if that's getting out of Cherokee County, maybe into Muskogee County. But again, it's right in this vicinity. Here's western Sequoia County. Gore, Weber's Falls, just west of Gore. And so we have to watch the potential for some hail. This is in far western Sequoia County. If you're just now joining us, you're kind of confused, and like, what's going on right now? Yeah, we got some heavy thunderstorms. Now we're starting to talk about the River Valley right now, as opposed to Northwest Arkansas a little bit earlier. But that's what's kind of what we're looking at there is those thunderstorms just continue to spread south across the area. So now Greenwood, Lavaca, we're getting those heavier downpours. It is non-severe though, and I kind of want to look at some of our velocity winds here. Let's kind of loop this for you guys. Yeah, it's just moving pretty much due south. With the exception, this is moving south, with the exception of this, it's kind of moving northeast. It's going to kind of run into this cluster and kind of just combine, make a big cluster of heavy rain and thunder and lightning. So we'll kind of look at some wind potential there. And earlier, we talked about the potential for very, very weak rotation that was near Bragg. That was about 20 minutes ago. It looks like it's come down right now. I mean, still some gusty winds, but in terms of storms actually rotating, it still just looks like a very low potential of that happening. And so it's kind of just something that was in the back of my mind. Just want to kind of keep in mind and show you guys in case we were kind of worried about that. Okay. Yeah, so don't have any new updates to pass along. I gotta check my battery here. All right, we're still good. Our battery level is good. Might check some power outages. I was gonna check some of our web cameras here. Here's Mercy Fort Smith. We'll see if we can get anything going. It's probably just raining pretty hard. Yeah. Yeah, again, I would show the Mercy Fort Smith camera, but it's just not necessarily... Nothing of importance is there to show necessarily. I could show you some RDOT cameras, though, to show you guys maybe how heavy the rain is and our visibility potentially. Not sure if I'll do that though. So this severe thunderstorm warning goes until 2:30 in the morning again. This goes for western Sequoia County. Takes its way southeastward. Excuse me. So south, it's still been raining pretty hard there, and Fort Smith still seeing that heavier push of rainfall. Muldrow to Roland, it's still raining and storming pretty hard there. Luckily in Washington County, the rain has trended down a little bit. We had some very heavy rainfall a little bit earlier there. Yeah, so again, that cluster movement through Fort Smith, Van Buren, it's not severe. And I think as this pushes through, it's probably some good news as this rain's just going to kind of have to work itself out. And I think our wind gusts have actually come down as well. It's just these little isolated clusters with a lot of lightning in them. That's when we have to talk about, that hail potential, that updraft starting to strengthen a little bit. It lofts the hail a little bit higher in the atmosphere. And so the hail stays aloft for a little bit longer, and it's something that can grow to be a little bit bigger of a hailstone compared to maybe some small pea-sized hail. So that's what we're looking at in this storm right now. And not necessarily in Fort Smith, Lavaca, Van Buren, Alma, Mulberry, but some of that heavy thunderstorm kind of just blossoming like broccoli or cauliflower. It's kind of a weird analogy. But from Pensacola to Greenwood to Charleston, now we're getting in on some of those heavier thunderstorms right now. Along Arkansas, 22, even down 71 through Greenwood as that heavy rainfall continues. Fort Smith, downtown Van Buren, getting hit with that heavy rainfall right now. If you're curious on how gusty our winds are right now, looks like they've come down just a little bit. I think that's some good news, guys. We can still sample it because we're not super far off the ground. I think our winds have continued to come down a little bit. I think that's some good news for our Fort Smith, Van Buren residents. It's been a loud thunderstorm for sure, but I think our winds have come down just a little bit. And now we're kind of looking close to the radar site, but yeah, so our velocities, our wind velocity, our wind speeds, if you will, have come down in this vicinity. Earlier they were like 40 to 50 miles an hour. Now they're like 30 to maybe 40 mile an hour wind gusts. So they've continued to kind of come down a little bit. And that's some good news for any of our residents in Fort Smith, Dora, Van Buren, Alma. Just means that our winds are slowly weakening, but it's still a loud thunderstorm, and we'll have to watch some flooding potential there. Again, the issue with an overnight thing like this is that it's going to be hard for cameras to see a lot. So I'd love to show you some RDOT cameras. But for me to do that, I have to walk all the way over there. I'm always going to see a wet roadway, some thunder and lightning. And I just don't know if that's of importance for you guys right now. I think the radar might just be a better visual for you guys. As Interstate 40 is just getting pounded right now. And that rain and storms continues. You can kind of see that outflow that continues. It's almost into Podo. Podo to almost Mansfield, up to Boonville to Paris. There's that storm outflow, that gust front from these thunderstorms. And if I look, the last 2 hours. So this is the last 2 hours. We can see that storm trajectory. It's a flash flood warning, so nothing to worry about there. The upper left hand of your screen, it's a flash flood warning. But look where that rain falls. Some of it was moving from west to east, and it kind of continued to dive its way southward, and it basically just moved from north to south as it continues to get shoved southward there from those upper level winds. A little bit more development off to near McAllister and just west of LaFleur County. Those are harmless right now. And kind of see where that outflow kind of originated in. I can go back and show you guys. Again, some reports of some small hail in Fort Smith. It's probably some pea-sized hail, I would have to guess. But nothing close to severe hail or anything like that. So there's that storm outflow. It kind of came out of Washington County. This is, when I say storm outflow and that gust front, this is that little green line. So watch where it heads and watch where it goes. Continues through Fort Smith and boom, it just keeps moving southward. So there's that radar loop. And those Sharon storms just going to continue to blossom now across Sebastian County and parts of Franklin County. So that's kind of cool. Cool in the sense that it's not severe right now. Maybe not cool that you're maybe getting woken up here. Yeah, so again, nothing severe in Fort Smith, Van Buren right now. We'll watch that area in western Sequoia County. We'll see what it does. Almost looks like the last few minutes might get shoved a little bit further east here as it works its way into Sequoia County. Let's check some hail there. We'll check hail, and then we'll look to rainfall estimates to talk about the flooding potential, because that might impact some folks for the morning commute, the morning drive tomorrow. So we'll look at the radar rainfall estimates here real quick. Let's talk about hail here. So it looks like our hail has come down just a little bit in far western Sequoia County. And it looks like with a new scan it came up. So again, it's not the gospel here. It just kind of gives you a rough idea of this hail product. And that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Yeah, still some $half sized hail possible. It's in a very small corridor near Gore, near that says Redbird Smith. So near Gore and Redbird Smith, this little hail core continues to work its way southeastward. So if we're on Interstate 40, we might run into a little bit of hail. So if you're traveling west on 40, keep that in mind, as we could be getting some of that hail there along Interstate 40 as it tracks southeastward. So that's what we're continuing to kind of look at right now. Again, kind of has a little appendage there near Gore, but in terms of rotation, yes, there's greens, there's reds, and they're kind of next to each other, but they're not really tight. They're not necessarily bright either, and so that's kind of what what we're kind of watching out there. It's just not a big concern of ours, but we still are concerned there about hail and some gusty winds from this storm. As we're looking from the Fort Smith radar, this just got continued. This severe thunderstorm warning continues until 2:30 in the morning. Here south, so we're looking at Sequoia County, and that storm continues its way southeastward across parts of the area. Yeah, look at all the storms just blossoming up across the area. So wow, there we go. And yeah, so if you're getting woken up, I'm sorry, but at least the severe potential is very low in Fort Smith, Van Buren, Alma. It just looks very low. I wouldn't be too concerned with this area. But we got a little area of heavier thunderstorms there across Sequoia County, even western Sequoia County. So, we'll watch that across places like Salsall, Muldrow, Flute Springs as well. And definitely going to be watching that little appendage there by Gore to see, if it behaves or not. Real quick, guys, real quick. Here's our 12-hour rainfall estimate. So I was just looking at the chat to see if I had to pass anything on to you guys, but nothing at the moment. So this is kind of what I was talking about there, that heavy rain. We've probably gotten over an inch, and it's just still raining in these same areas. So you might look at it and say, oh, 1.2 inches, that's not bad. But they're probably going to double that. They're probably going to end up with more than 2 inches of rainfall there. I mean, just some really heavy rainfall. Even parts of Crawford County have almost picked up an inch. So this is radar estimated rainfall, but still goes to show you that, just some very heavy rainfall has fallen. Holy smokes. Again, that's radar estimated rainfall, but 5 inches, that's going to cause some flooding. That's why they had that flash flood warning for the Tahlequah area, which is that red polygon on the upper left hand of your screen. Meanwhile, the River Valley is just getting pounded with some heavy rain, just good old-fashioned heavy rain, thunder, lightning. And might be time to do another storm track here. It is interesting, though. So we got two different storm directions, right? We have, well, you can make the argument almost three. So we got this cluster that's pushed through Van Buren and Fort Smith. This is pretty much north to south. We got these little storms by the reservoir and up to here south. So these have been from southwest to northeast. And then we have this cluster that instead of more of a north to south orientation, it's more northwest to southeast. So we got different clusters kind of moving in some different directions. So kind of an interesting thing that we're seeing on our Doppler radar product right now as those thunderstorms kind of continue to move in different directions and whatnot. Again, yeah, I think as the radar kind of starts to fill in a little bit here, I just wouldn't be concerned about severe weather in this area. We'll, of course, still watch it here. I'm going to pass the baton off shortly. But it's just this one severe thunderstorm warning that goes until 2:30 in the morning. So we're going to be watching that area, and it's always the River Valley that that has some sort of severe weather when I'm here by myself. But Danny's going to be relieving me here momentarily, and he'll probably continue to track this. As long as we have a severe thunderstorm warning, still probably waking some folks up from Fort Smith to Sallisaw area. And if anyone has any questions, please direct them to the Facebook stream. I have the stream pulled up right here, so I'm able to occasionally look at some comments. So I would like to answer your questions and be as much help as possible. But this is what we're looking at on Doppler radar right now. See if we can see anything from our cameras. Yeah, not a whole lot. In fact, I think our lightning's actually come down in Fort Smith, if I'm not mistaken. I think this actually continues to weaken, this little cluster. There's just not a whole lot of lightning with the Fort Smith Van Buren. I mean, you're still probably hearing thunder, but maybe just not as much as, say, 30 minutes ago. Yeah. In fact, if I just have this little area and let's turn on lightning. So there's some lightning strikes there that have really come down. Excuse me. So about 70 lightning strikes just in this little area. It's kind of fluctuating there as we kind of get the little new updates. So lightning has definitely, I think, come down in this little cluster. Also, our reflectivity values, maybe instead of oranges and reds, they've been more so yellows and oranges there across the area. So I think our reflectivity is coming down a little bit. So overall, a bit of a weakening trend for that Fort Smith area. But that storm continues to push its way southward there through time. And you can see a little appendage there near Gore. Sometimes it looks a little concerning. And we're looking from our Fort Smith radar site. And as we sample the winds near Gore, it's just not enough to warrant a tornado warning. That's why the Weather Service just isn't really concerned about it right now, nor am I. And the tornado potential has been very low so far this evening. We kind of talked about that in the newscast earlier and yesterday as well. We just weren't really concerned about it. More of kind of a wind threat and then even a bit of a hail potential as well. So that's what we're looking at right now. So someone's asking if Muldrow should be worried. I mean, for right now, no. But we just have to watch this little cluster, and if it kind of continues to move its way southeastward, does it still have a little bit resemblances of some hail, maybe some gusty winds? Yeah, it's possible. And then maybe a severe warning could get issued for Muldrow. But I think right now it's just the heavy rain, thunder, lightning, just a typical summertime thunderstorm right now in Muldrow. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Certainly, if you hear hail, down the road, then yeah, of course we'll kind of resample and kind of circle back to see what we're going to be seeing with that thunderstorm. But right now, if we look at hail, even our winds didn't look that impressive. It looks like our hail's come down just a little bit there with that Sequoia County cell. Things are starting to get messy though, just across Sequoia County in general, as all these thunderstorms are kind of just running and bumping into this one big cluster. And that's kind of what we're seeing out there right now. So I'm just not particularly worried right now about this area. Still have to watch, though, some of that severe thunderstorm there into western Sequoia County as that continues for the next 25 minutes. Should Charleston be worried? No, not really. Here's Charleston. We're seeing some heavy downpours right now. Here's Ratcliffe. Probably going to see some heavy rain start to push into near Ratcliffe area as well. But again, right now I'm just not concerned about it. Just some sporadic downpours is what we're seeing out there, and occasional thunder and lightning. But that's not enough to concern me. And even if it did, we would be here. Lots of rain, lightning, and Rudy. Yes, that would check out. Near the Crawford County Speedway, probably as well. So yeah, that's what we're looking at there. This line just kind of continues to get more broken and more broken. This line right here, it's more sporadic. I think that's kind of a good word to use there. Yeah. So to reset right now, here's what the radar looks like. I mean, it's kind of just blossomed, and that little cluster just moved from north to south across Adair County, Washington County. Luckily, it's not raining anymore in these areas, so it gives time for the streams and creeks to kind of come down a little bit. But man, it was raining very hard there. But now the focus has shifted to Sequoia County, Crawford County, and Sebastian County. Just one severe thunderstorm warning for western Sequoia County right now for the time being. And we'll kind of continue to kind of monitor that over the next several hours as that line of storms continues to push its way southward. We got someone watching in Salisaw, and they were reporting lots of lightning and some gusty winds. And that's kind of what we've been talking about, alluding to. We got a Spyro mention in here. Some heavier downpours in Spyro as well. But overall, the severe potential is just not super high these next few hours. I talked about earlier, yeah, there could be a rogue one or two severe thunderstorm warnings here or there. We got that one here in western Sequoia County. Well, that goes until 2:30, so it'll be interesting to see if they extend that until 2:30 in the morning, or extend that past 2:30 in the morning, as that's what we're looking at right now. And it looks like the National Weather Service is continuing to say that that warning has downtrended. It's come down, at least the intensity of the storm into parts of Sequoia County. So that's some good news. But they are still continuing it for Sequoia County and parts of Haskell County. It's for 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, and then they've taken the hail down as well with this storm. So it's no longer warned for 1.25 inches of hail. It's actually just for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, but also hail up to the size of, say, nickels. So the hail size has come down with this. And so that's certainly some good news there. And my relief has come into the studio, luckily. So Danny Cassidy's here, but we're going to give him some time to get set up and get ready. It's just this one severe thunderstorm warning, though, goes until 2:30 in the morning for Sequoia County. Again, you kind of see there the hail has come down there from Vian to Gore, and that continues to kind of work its way southeastward there. Elsewhere, still seeing those heavier showers and thunderstorms. If I kind of jump back to radar right now. And the radar's really just filled in the last, 30 minutes to an hour. Well, it's not severe in Fort Smith and Greenwood. We've certainly seen some of those heavier downpours out there across the region, and that continues for Salisaw, Muldrow, and that continues for Lavaca, Charleston, Ozark. Almost look like there's a little invisible force that's just kind of holding the rain just to your west. Probably seeing a few raindrops there near the Ozark area, but we're going to be seeing that those heavier pockets of rainfall out there. And Danny, you mic'd up then too? Okay. I will say the battery was at like 30%. Okay, cool. So yeah, for anyone watching there, we'll just put the little radar loop while we do the little battery switcheroo. I'm going to get out of here, but Danny's just starting his day. So I'm going to gather all my materials, and I will do a little switcheroo, and we will continue the coverage as long as it is necessary. Here's the iPad if you want it. And then I'm just going to set this down. I'm going to have to loop this through.
All right, everyone, if you can hear me on the stream, I'm just getting mic'd up here. So again, currently, if you're watching, you're just joining, like, what the heck is going on this morning, Danny? Well, first of all, thank you to Noah Simmons for doing hard work as always. He's now going to rest his voice and get ready for, well, I guess tonight's technically forecast, as we are, what, about 16 hours, well, 14 hours away from his forecast. So, and thank you, Noah. So again, right now we have one severe thunderstorm warning in effect for western Sequoia County. Just on the eastern edge includes the city of Sallisaw. It's for 60-mile-per-hour winds and possibly up to nickel to dime-size hail or dime to nickel-size hail. Not expecting any more hail, at least massive hail threat out of this, but we are going to watch for maybe a little bit of some small hail at times as the system moves through from northwest to southeast. So if you're joining us maybe from northwest Arkansas, you might be thinking, all right, you maybe saw some lightning this morning. Once this line moves through, the severe threat's over. We still could see a few spotty showers behind it, but in terms of what we're seeing right now, in terms of severity, once this line moves through, we're done. So I'll kind of show you what's going on here. Maybe if you're in the Central River Valley right now, we're not expecting anything severe out of that. Let's freeze frame things here. Just kind of do I'll rewind here and just kind of reset. So let me make sure, let me look at these wind speeds for the Central River Valley. So yeah, there's no special weather statement. Usually we look for special weather statements that are just below severe criteria, meaning winds at 40 to 50 miles per hour. And there's not even that for this in Central River Valley. So if you're in the Fort Smith area, you might be wondering what the heck is going on. Again, just looking at some heavy rainfall potential and maybe some 30 to 35 mile per hour winds, but nothing that's warranting severe level in terms of winds. The main concern probably right now is going to be on the western edge, those winds, a lot of lightning, as well as maybe some localized flash flooding because the system is not moving very fast. If I were to just kind of loop it here over the last hour, we'll slow it down a little bit just to kind of show you the pace it's moving at because it's not very fast. So you can see like Sequoia County has been getting hit with heavy rain really over the past hour and it has not moved very far south. These are only moving at roughly about, I'd say 20 to 25 miles per hour. If we were to look at the severe thunderstorm warning pace, yeah, southeast at 20 miles per hour. So not a very fast moving storm. And for now, it's just this western edge. Whenever you see a lot of lightning in a storm, that's kind of one indicator, not the exact, but one of the indicators of where the strongest storms are. And that's why you have this severe warning because this has the most lightning. It's the most intense storm. And that's the one that has the strongest winds as well. And that's continuing to move southeast. So again, if you're in northwest Arkansas, go back to bed. You're probably seeing some lightning, though. I certainly did on my drive in. You're probably seeing it just because the storms are very tall, so you can see it from miles away. We always talk about heat lightning. That's not necessarily the case. It is hot, don't get me wrong. But the reason why we're seeing lightning and maybe not hearing it is because it's just so far away that it can't reach you in terms of sound, but you can definitely see it in the sight. So we'll zoom in just to the river valley just to kind of show you a better shot of what's going on here. So again, for those that are in the central and eastern areas, those in Johnson and Logan County, might miss out on a good portion of this rain. It's staying mostly, as Noah was mentioning, confined to Franklin County and westward. And parts of western Logan County, maybe the western edge of Paris, Boonville there, seeing a little bit. You see that light green line there? That's a little bit of like a gust front, a little outflow. And storms are going to kind of follow that pattern as they move south. So since it's kind of just scraping Boonville there, it might be getting to Boonville, but otherwise farther east will probably stay pretty dry, maybe some more scattered showers. But the farther east you go, the weaker the storms are as well. You notice the lightning bolts aren't as apparent. But if we head to the west, where the severe thunderstorm warning is, that's where we're seeing a lot of lightning, and that's where the most intense cell is in the kind of between Gore and Sallisaw. So the severe thunderstorm warning doesn't technically involve Gore. You can see it's a pretty small one because it's contained to where all the lightning is, and that's where the fastest winds are. Now, this has had a downtrend of weakening, so that's some good news for us. I want to see what the National Weather Service in Tulsa said. So yeah, so there was a downtrend in the last couple of radar scans, so that's some good news for us. But let's see if we look at the velocity in terms of the wind speeds, what that looks like. And I do notice that there's just kind of darker greens, meaning that it doesn't look too strong. Now, you're going to see a negative. You might be like, how is that even possible? With winds regarding the radar, it has a directional component as well. So negatives to connotate that it's moving towards the radar, so towards the Fort Smith radar. And then the red means it's moving away. So that's just how to distinguish that for those winds. In terms of up here, so 40 miles per hour, pretty strong there towards evening shade, 37 miles per hour. So it's very strong winds still. Let me put on, if I can put on this severe thunderstorm warning so you can see where that warning is. So yeah, we're seeing some pretty strong storms out of this. But the thing is that it is weakening a little bit. So that is some good news for us as we go through the rest of this morning, that it is slightly downtrending. And of course, we haven't seen anything this morning that would regard rotation, so I'll just double check on that. But I'm not seeing anything that would indicate any rotation forming out of this, so that's some good news for us. Everything's pretty smooth, meaning no blending of the winds. So for right now, that doesn't look to be too much of a concern, but we'll continue to keep an eye on that, of course, as we head through the rest of this morning. So right now in this box, and actually it looks like they canceled the severe thunderstorm warning because it is just downtrended pretty weakly over the past 20 minutes or so. So those winds, as you saw, were only about 30 to 40 miles per hour. So it looks like they'll probably, they issued a special weather statement. So that's what I talked about a little bit earlier. These are when storms are strong, but not quite severe. So severe thunderstorm warning is technically up to 58 miles an hour for winds. Now it's weakened, so these could be up to 50. But as you just saw in the velocity, they're only showing about 35 to 40. So still some stronger storms. And what we'll have to watch for as well is some very heavy rainfall falling in here that could lead to that localized flash flooding. So let's kind of give you an estimate of how much has fallen here just with this storm. So if we were to go to northern Sequoia County here, just northwest of Brushy, 2.5 radar estimated rainfall totals, and sometimes it can overdo it a little bit, but it's just to show you how much rainfall has fallen over the last just few hours. And this is 12 hours, but this is just with this system in the past hour or so. About 1.5 there towards evening shade. The city of Sallisaw, if we just go to the eastern edge here, about 1.3. So some pretty heavy rainfall there, and it isn't quite as intense off to the east just because, again, that's where the weaker storms were. But for those in Crawford County, got a good amount of rainfall, probably sitting at, say, 1/4 to 1/2 inch. So if we just go towards Alma here, sitting at about 0.3 there, so just a little bit over 1/4. Fort Smith area, if we go downtown, about 0.2, so some pretty heavy rainfall. And there was some good rainfall that fell through parts of northwest Arkansas as well, but you notice, again, it mainly stayed on the western half of northwest Arkansas, and that'll continue to track southeast. So if you're joining us on the stream, and you're like, okay, I hear some storms, I woke up, I see the stream is live, what's going on, Danny? Walk me through it. So again, shout out Noah Simmons for being here through it all, through, again, early this morning or late tonight. And currently, there are no severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. The one that was in effect was for western Sequoia County, and that's where you see all the lightning. When you see a ton of lightning, usually that indicates that storm's pretty strong. And it's still strong, but it's not quite severe wind strong. Right now, winds are looking at about 35 to 40 miles per hour. So the National Weather Service in Tulsa said, you know what, they're pretty strong storms, but not quite severe. So there's a special weather statement for 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts. Behind it here, we've seen quite a bit of rain training over the past few hours. You can see that flash flood warning in effect just west of Adair County there. So that's something we'll have to monitor for this morning, is that, yes, there could be some gusty winds, but now what we're going to have to be watching for is maybe some isolated flash flooding because this rainfall is moving very slowly, only about 20 miles per hour to the southeast, and it's putting up quite a bit of heavy rain. Now, the good thing is it is slightly weakening in terms of that rainfall, but we kind of needed to speed up so it can continue to move southeast and, again, limit that flash flood concern. Now, once this line moves through, the strongest winds will be over, but, again, we'll have to watch for that training or development on the backside. You can see a little bit of it here to the west towards McAllister along I-40 there. We'll continue to see that track southeast. Those in northwest Arkansas, I think for the most part, you're probably quiet for the rest of the night. Now, you see some lightning bolts behind it, so there's still quite a bit of lightning behind this system. So if you're out and about early this morning in northwest Arkansas, you're probably still going to see some lightning. Plenty of it I saw on my drive in. But those are the southeast, getting in the Fort Smith area, moving southward towards the Washitas. I'm not expecting this to intensify at all. Could we see some brief gusty winds? Yes, but this is where the strongest winds are. And now that this is kind of undercutting it out ahead of it, I don't anticipate this part at least getting any stronger. And even this, again, it's kind of losing some steam. One way to kind of look at that is looking at what's called CAPE, or just available energy. There's a good amount of energy still left in the atmosphere. You can kind of see it along and south the I-40, but CAPE's not necessarily the only thing that keeps storms going. This will be enough to keep the heavy rain going, but in terms of the strong winds, usually look for something called wind shear. Basically, in the atmosphere, as the winds, as you go up, how do winds increase or how do they change in speed, and how do they change in direction? And in speed, they're not increasing that much. So what that means is that the storm, while it's still got a lot of fuel to work with, think about it this way. Like if you drive a car and you have plenty of fuel, yeah, it's going to drive. But if you don't give it the oil change, if you don't repair its headlights, if you don't get its brake pads replaced. It's going to break down, and even if you have fuel, it can't keep going. So there's enough there. There's enough repairs there in the car to keep this going. But it's not quite to its full strength because that wind shear isn't necessarily the strongest. So we're going to see some gusty winds. It's still going to perform. That car is going to still be able to get you to point A to point B. But in terms of any severity, I'm not expecting that. So I guess in this case, a fully healthy car, severe weather. Not the greatest analogy, but that's kind of one way to think about it. So again, right now there's no severe thunderstorm warning. And as I mentioned, I don't anticipate this getting any stronger. We'll watch to see kind of what it looks like, but let's kind of show you what maybe the radar looks like for the rest of the morning. So let's go to this. And again, I haven't looked at this. Sometimes you see this and you're like, okay, so you can already see, yeah, it's a little off. It's not in Northwest Arkansas anymore. It's along I-40. But if we were to go to, let's say, 3 o'clock, it's not too bad. It's definitely a little bit farther south on the Arkansas side of things. But as you're going to see it move south, again, we're going to probably see some more redevelopment. Let me take this out in the next 12 hours here. It's a little too far. So kind of see this move through, I think by 7 a.m. at the latest. But again, if we're on pace where we are right now, that's roughly where we're at. So I'd say probably around 5 a.m., maybe 6 a.m. at the latest, we'll see this clear out. And then for the rest of the day, looks pretty dry. We could see maybe some isolated development on the backside of this, but it does look like that once this moves through, for the most part, I think we're done with severe weather, possibly for the rest of the night. We'll keep an eye on it. But in terms of any of the heaviest rainfall, once that passes through, we're done with that. I could see some isolated cells ahead of it, or behind it, excuse me, but I'm not expecting anything widespread severe or any widespread heavy rainfall. So we'll go back to the radar here just to kind of show you how things are doing. Again, nothing severe at the moment. Still quite a bit of lightning out of it. It's a loud thunderstorm right now, but this has been downtrending in terms of intensity over the last hour or so. And one way to look at that is lightning, which you're still seeing a lot of it. So you're like, well, Danny, that's not a great sign. It still looks like there's a ton, and there is. But another way to look at it is the reflectivity. How harsh are the reds and if there's purples? You notice those reds are kind of turning into more oranges. So yeah, there's a lot of heavy rain still. But usually when that reflectivity starts to trend downward, that's a sign that the storm is weakening. Still producing a lot of heavy rainfall, still a loud storm, but when you don't see as much of a pronounced red anymore, that's where we're looking at, yeah, maybe not quite as strong as it was. So that's some good news for us, is that those winds are weakening, and we're just getting some rainfall, which we could definitely use. Is just wanting to make sure we don't see any of this flash flooding, which again, we are seeing some development on the backside. The good thing with this area, though, you see how these storms are weakening a little bit too. So I think that'll continue to slightly weaken as we head through the rest of tonight. So if you're up right now and you might be wondering, okay, what do I expect for severe weather for the rest of the night? Right now, I'm not expecting anything more severe for this morning. We will continue to track it, though. We'll continue to be on the stream. But if you're kind of worried about severe weather, I'm not necessarily concerned about that. Even if you're in the River Valley, I think you can go to bed. If you're really worried, though, make sure you have those alerts that can wake you up, a NOAA weather radio, or have your alerts on loud. But for right now, I think for the most part, especially the farther east you live in the River Valley, I don't even know if it's going to reach Johnson and eastern Logan County. The Fort Smith area, just seeing some heavy rainfall. Again, could see some brief gusty winds. And we'll take another look at those winds. But again, these have been weakening as it's been moving in from the north. So the strongest winds would probably be in Sequoyah County right now, where the severe thunderstorm warning was. If we were to go east of Brushy here, 37 miles per hour. Again, winds are negative because it's denoting what direction they're moving, which is towards the radar. 43 miles per hour, so there's still some gusty winds. If you go to the west of Brushy there, northwest of Salsa, not close to 40. So there's still some brief gusty winds, so 40 to maybe 50 miles per hour. But in terms of anything widespread severe, no, not necessarily. If we go towards Greenwood here, there could be some gusty winds out of the head of this system, southwest of Greenwood towards the Poto area. If we were to go in here, 43 miles an hour. So those in southern Sebastian and central LaFleur County, if we were to pop up the radar again, there's probably some brief gusty winds. Let me freeze this for a second. Probably some brief gusty winds. Again, you can see this kind of like light green outline. Sometimes we call this a gust front. If it was sunny out or the sun was up, you could probably see like a shelf cloud moving in, just kind of denoting what those winds look like, or kind of like when a front passes by, you can kind of see that massive like shelf of a cloud roll through. And that's what we're seeing down here, just because out ahead of that, that's where you see the strongest winds, and then behind it, some heavy rainfall. But really, besides those two areas, winds look to be pretty pretty okay. I mean, there are definitely some gusts at times, but like if we were to go to the Fort Smith area here where there's just seeing some heavy rainfall, 20-mile-per-hour winds, and that's pretty close to the surface. One of the things you have to watch for with the radar, because the radar goes up in the atmosphere, so the farther away you get from it, the stronger the winds are probably going to be because you're getting up in the storm, which you don't experience those winds that are 5,000 feet aloft. But if you're close to the surface, that's roughly what you can get. And close to the surface in Fort Smith, yeah, looking at about 20 miles per hour. But there's still some gusty winds in here. If we go north of Muldrow, 37 miles per hour. So 40 to 50 mile per hour winds are certainly a possibility. And then possibly even with this southern end, seeing some gusty winds out of this as well, kind of west of Mansfield, east of Poto there. Seeing some pretty gusty winds if I were to just kind of again query some of these winds. 48 miles per hour, so yeah, maybe up to 50. So I think that's the case going forward is winds could be up to 50 miles per hour, but that's just below the severe criteria that we've been seeing. So I'll continue to stay on the stream. For those I know can be a little bit worried about weather, and you're like, I'm not turning it off until I know for sure these storms are out of here. I'll continue to watch. If things get a lot weaker and just look like rainfall, what we'll probably do is we'll leave up the stream. We'll just leave the radar up. But in terms of me voicing it over, we'll probably just kind of be in the background, and if something kicks up, I'll make sure to get on and let you know. But you can even tell a little bit with the lightning too. That's kind of diminishing a little bit too. All those bolts have started to get a little bit dimmer. What that really means is the lightning itself is diminishing. So that's a good sign as well that we're seeing that storm weaken. And for those in northwest Arkansas, I mean, we're still seeing some lightning there as well. So just because all this main activity, if we were to look behind it, you can see, I thought that was a lightning bolt towards Hinesville. Maybe I'm seeing things. It is early in the morning, but there are some lightning bolts that are out behind this. And so just because you're, outside the storm doesn't necessarily mean you're not seeing the lightning. So let's see if we can change this. Oh yeah, okay. It's just really dark, but you can see like Huntsville, even southeast Washington County, seeing quite a bit of some lightning there, even though in northeast Madison County, not a whole lot of heavy rainfall, but still some lightning. There's still quite a bit of lightning, even when it's not raining. So just be careful. I mean, I don't know who would be up at 2:30 in the morning, like walking outside and doing work, but if for whatever reason you were, there's still some pretty strong lightning out there. Not strong lightning, but there's still some lightning out there, even in areas that are seeing very little rain or no rain. So reset here. Let me take a drink of water. So if you're just joining us, maybe you're hearing some loud storms in the River Valley. Maybe even heard a little bit of thunder in northwest Arkansas. You're keeping an eye on the storms from yesterday. You're waking up like, okay, I know Danny said around 3 a.m. That's when the end of the severe criteria. Well, forecast is on track because right now there's no severe weather in the area. There was one severe thunderstorm warning in western Sequoyah County. That was canceled about 15 minutes ago, and that's because it's been weakening as it's been moving southeast. And one of the ways you can look at that is the lightning count decreasing. Another way to look at that is to look at, another way to look at that is the rainfall. The dark reds turning more into oranges and yellows. So that's some good signs for us. What we want to happen, though, is we want this to continue to weaken and speed up. Unfortunately, it is moving pretty slow, only 20 miles per hour. So now the next thing to watch for is flash flood concerns that are moving through the area. So you can still see there's a lot of lightning with this system, but in terms of any severe weather, that threat has diminished for us this morning. I just want to see if there's any more special weather statements out there as we head into the rest of the day. So yeah, it's only the one special weather statement is just for this system right here in western Sequoyah County. Just want to make sure we can get that. And got a text from Scott Covert. Scott, go to bed. If you're still up, go to bed. He's making sure things are good and behind the scenes in the background. But Scott, you're supposed to have your day off. Come on, Scott. So some heavy rain still falling in the River Valley along and south of I-40. In northwest Arkansas, some light rain there in Carroll and Madison County. A little bit of some lightning as well. But again, the main area of that rainfall right now is sitting in Sequoyah and LaFleur County. But in terms of any severe weather, again, I think that chance is pretty darn low for the rest of this morning just because this storm trend is weakening as we go through the rest of the morning. Now, we'll look ahead maybe a little bit to what the rest of the day holds. Let me see. I think this data is just coming in, so it should be new. Let me double check on that, though, because I want to make sure I'm giving you guys good data. let's go to this. All right, so that's not doing too bad of kind of replicating what's going on this morning. Now, to be fair, it is a little off, but in terms of like the overall pattern, yeah, it's trying its best. That's all we can ask for. So I think the main rainfall moves out about 6 a.m. at the latest. I think, Northwest Arkansas, I'm not expecting any redevelopment besides maybe some spotty showers. Then once this moves out for the rest of the day, I think it's pretty spotty. Could we see a few bubbles of storms later today? Maybe. But those won't be severe, maybe some brief downpours. But again, I think for the most part, we're quiet for the rest of the day. What we'll be watching for is not necessarily during the day tomorrow, but late tomorrow into early Sunday, it'll probably be our next best chance of rain. But in terms of the rest of the day, not expecting anything severe. I think this should update here. Let's go to the SPC risk. Actually, let me go back to radar. People always want to, like, severe weather going to continue. I'm not expecting that for this. All right, come on, radar. There we go. Let's see the severe risk. I think we have it. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so no severe risk for today. Again, for once we see this system clear out, and again, really for the rest of tonight, we're not expecting anything. That risk is going to be actually well off to the west and well off to the east. We're kind of split in two here, so some good news there. We are going to watch for is tomorrow. We're going to see maybe the potential of some stronger storms. The worst will be off to the north in the Kansas City area and parts of central and western Missouri, eastern Kansas. For us, though, mainly looking like a strong storm risk because of how late the storms are getting here. Kind of similar to what we're seeing right now, where a lot of this might not even fall until maybe very early Sunday morning. So that's tomorrow, and we'll talk about that on 5 News this morning. And I know that's a shameless plug, but we'll be watching that for tomorrow. We'll continue to talk about that. But again, right now, we'll keep an eye on those storms. We'll zoom in here. So again, we'll continue to be on here, but if they don't issue another special weather statement even, I'm probably just going to leave this up for some rainfall. You can just look at the radar, kind of see how things are going. But for the most part, it just looks like that what we're seeing is heavy rain, some lightning, maybe some brief gusty winds at 30 to 40 miles per hour, maybe as high as 50. But there's not a whole lot of actual, severity with the winds, which is great news, of course. So we'll take a look at a couple of the cameras there, just kind of see what's going on here. So we go to Poto. Poto, what do we got for us? What's it looking like there in Poto? One of the things to mention, too, is that even though this rain's moving through, don't expect much of a cool down. It's still going to be muggy. Dew point of 75. It's not mostly sunny. It is nighttime. But you can see it still feels like 86 in Poto. That's just how warm it is right now. There's just a ton of moisture. It's just soupy. It's yucky, whatever you want to call it. Just not a whole lot of fun to be outside. Go to Fort Smith, see if we're seeing any good lightning out there. Actually, I'm going to do what those fellas do. Get the iPad. They're pretty nifty with it. So let me grab the iPad. But yeah, right now, there's some lightning striking there. So yeah, so seeing some lightning in the area. Let's see if we're going to go to the Fort Smith camera here. So yeah, so seeing some heavy rain, seeing some lightning fall. But for the most part, things are pretty quiet here in the region. Just looking at some heavy rain. And the gusty winds, we'll go back to the radar here. Take another look at the velocity, kind of see what the recent trends have been. But the recent trends have really, trended downward. So if we were to go to velocity, look at those gusty winds. And there could be some brief gusts in kind of the Muldrow area. But looking at, 30 miles per hour, it's not necessarily, the strongest of winds there. Severe is 58, and that's just about half of that. If we go to another spot here towards west of Sallisaw, 26, again, not too strong of winds. Still gusts, don't get me wrong, but in terms of the strongest winds, there is some strong winds out here just to the south towards Mansfield and Poto, maybe up to 50 miles per hour. I will say, though, that could be getting a little bit of a bad reading, and again, getting a little bit higher up into the storm, because if we were to match this up with reflectivity, and that's that gust front, that's like that front of that system that's moving through, But once that moves through, then the winds will calm down. So the strongest of winds are going to be right now kind of out ahead of this there in Mansfield, just southwest of Mansfield and Podos, headed towards Heavener and western Scott County towards Waldron. But I'm not expecting this to pick up in intensity at all with those winds. So we'll kind of back out here to show you the latest special weather statement as well was issued just to the west of us. So there's some pretty strong winds to the west and towards McAllister, but these are for now 40-mile-per-hour winds. So it continues to diminish a little bit overall. And as the more kind of develops on the backside, it's all kind of mushing together and kind of fighting each other for its energy. So overall, as a whole, it's weakening because you got more development now kind of saying, well, I kind of want some of your energy. I don't necessarily, want to have my own. I want to take some of yours. And that's why you're kind of seeing these storms kind of latch on and getting some lightning itself, but also diminishing some of this lightning in Sequoia County as well, where that previous severe thunderstorm warning has been, but it hasn't really been in effect for the last 20 minutes. So we'll continue to watch this. I'd say through about 2:45, we'll watch to see if they issue another special weather statement for the area. But again, the special weather statement is for winds that are just below severe criteria. This one that was just issued for the McAllister area was for 40-mile-per-hour winds, so about 20 below severe criteria. The one currently in Sequoia County is for 50. But even then, again, the strongest winds are kind of out on this little gust front here in southern Sebastian, central LaFleur County. But I'm not expecting that to really intensify too much. And I think for now, the severe threat for the rest of the morning looks extremely low. Northwest Arkansas, if you're joining us, I'm not expecting anything more to develop. Maybe, again, some spotty showers. But I'm not expecting anything severe for Northwest Arkansas. So if you want to go back to bed, feel free. Even in the River Valley, we'll keep an eye on this. But the farther east you live, I'm not expecting anything severe for tonight. Really, for the rest of the morning, we're going to watch for kind of northern LaFleur, Sebastian, Scott County, maybe western Logan County for any of those gusty winds, and then maybe some very heavy rainfall, maybe some localized flash flooding. But the good news is, again, storms as a whole are weakening, so that's limiting that flash flood concern. And then you can see behind it where the flash flooding was. That is weakening as well as it continues to move southeast. So some good news on all fronts here. We had a few warnings that moved through our far western counties, and that's been the strongest of this cell, has been right to our west. That is moving a little bit farther east, so I'm hoping that for those in the eastern areas where we need the rain the most, that's where the highest drought still is, that we can get some of that rain. But for now, it looks primarily north to south, a little bit of an eastern component, but for the most part, we're seeing it just kind of move north to south, and it's moving at roughly 20-25 miles per hour. So not a whole lot of speed to this system. So it looks like, let's see, the National Weather Service in Tulsa, yeah, no new statements here. So if we were to kind of show you, if you're in southern LaFleur and Scott County, you might be wondering, like, all right, when is it going to get to me? We'll just kind of give you a track here. Again, this is not for any warning. This is just for, hey, when are these storms going to get to my area? So Elm Park right now, Howe at 2:49, Worcester at 2:53, Heavener at 2:57, Waldron at about 3 a.m., Blanton at 3:12, Bowles at 3:17, Parks at 3:21, and Rich Mountain at 3:23. This is just for when storms will arrive, but these are some maybe gusty winds, but nothing severe out of these winds. So again, for now, it looks like things are looking okay this morning. And we're seeing a little bit of gusty winds out at times. Let's see. Let's go back to velocity here just to kind of see what we got going on. And you can see some gusty winds out ahead of this, but behind it, where it was kind of in Sequoia County, really has diminished quite a bit for the area. So Muldrow there, 30-mile-per-hour winds, looking maybe off to the northwest towards Gore, 40-mile-per-hour winds. So again, it's really weakened quite a bit as it's moved through the past really even half hour. Not as gusty as winds anymore. So yeah, the special weather statement's until 2:45. I'm not expecting this to be reissued, meaning like gusts around 50, just because it hasn't intensified at all. It stayed roughly the same, and it stayed kind of below severe criteria. Well, obviously stayed below severe criteria, but also hasn't intensified at all close to severe criteria again. The main winds again are going to be in that Sequoia County line, and then maybe a little bit out ahead of it in southern Sebastian and central LaFleur County. And again, kind of matching things up here. Again, that's where that gust front is, where the strongest winds kind of come through. Towards Bikoshi, we are seeing some heavy rain start to pick up there. You can see those darker reds. So maybe a little bit more of intense storms in the Bikoshi area for northwestern LaFleur County. But if we were to look at those winds, Doesn't look too bad. We'll kind of pick a spot. 35 miles per hour. So it's some gusts for sure, but not quite the severe level that we were seeing earlier, which obviously is good. And again, we haven't seen anything to indicate there's any rotation, but I just want to make sure we cover all our bases. And nope, not seeing any of that, so that's good news. Everything's smooth. There's no swirling. Just looks like some winds that are trying to move in and give us a show. So that's a little bit high in the atmosphere. So that isn't quite severe there. That's looking at more of the rotation, how things are moving up above in the middle of the atmosphere. So if we were to go back to more surface-based winds and I were to query this, again, I'm looking at 35 miles per hour. Okay, so special weather statement has expired for Sequoyah County. Again, those are just winds just below at 50 miles per hour. They may issue another one downstream, but as I mentioned, really these winds have started to weaken. So still seeing some gusty winds, maybe up to 40 miles per hour. Muldrow there, 35 miles per hour. If we go a little bit farther north, 40 miles per hour. Go towards Poto a little bit, maybe out ahead of it. Oops. So, again, no news is good news in this case. So we'll do one little recap here, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the radar up for those still watching at home. We're just going to keep an eye on this. This line especially, as it kind of bows out a little bit, could see some brief gusts, but again, nothing that's too concerning to me at this point. And then seeing that heavy rainfall, watching for maybe some isolated localized flash flooding, because there has been quite a bit of rainfall that's fallen over the past couple of hours. But in terms of, again, the severity of these storms, I'm not expecting this to rise above severe criteria at this moment, but definitely some heavy downpours associated with this, and as well as a lot of lightning. We're seeing that still really anywhere that you live in the river valley, especially farther west in eastern Oklahoma, seeing quite a bit of lightning with this system. But as a whole, things have been weakening. So we'll do one little check again of Futurecast here, what it looks like for the rest of the morning. So let's pause that. Again, it was a little behind, so you kind of just have to use your imagination and say, okay, right now is actually 5:30 in terms of Futurecast, because that's roughly where we're at. So I'd say in 2.5 hours, so that would be about 5 o'clock, maybe 6 at the latest, we'll see this clear out. And then for the rest of the day, maybe some spotty pop-ups. Otherwise, I'm not expecting anything severe for today. And even for the rest of this morning, that looks pretty unlikely. What we're going to have to be watching for is, again, that heavy rain potential, because a lot of heavy rain's fallen. There's the reason why that flash flood warning was in effect, because it just kind of trained over areas just west of Adair County. If we were to pick out radar estimates of this, it would be 4 inches, and this was just in a matter of a couple of hours, not just 12 hours, in a matter of a couple of hours, about 3 to 4 inch rainfall rates in Sequoyah County, looking at maybe 1 to 2 inch rainfall rates. So enough to maybe fill up the streams a little bit and kind of give us some heavy rainfall. But in terms of any of the gusty winds, that has diminished a little bit. We're seeing some of this on the backside, on the west end of the storm. We're seeing some winds pick up, but that's because it's kind of been untapped, right? That energy hasn't been used up yet. So these storms off to the west, kind of towards McAllister, you see how they're intensifying. Those winds are picking up, but since by the time those storms kind of agglomerate and move in, the energy's already been taken up, so I don't anticipate any intensifying. Basically, this is their last-ditch effort to try to turn severe, but again, I'm really not expecting that for this area anymore for the rest of this morning, just looking at some heavy rainfall. So, one final one through, and then I think I'm going to leave the stream up, and then what I'm going to do is, if it looks like, things will just look like heavy rain, we'll put it, we'll end the stream. Weather Impact 24/7 will continue to run the radar, continue to give you updates on that. But again, for the most part here, not looking at anything severe, just some heavy rainfall, some gusty winds at times, 30 to 40 miles per hour, as well as some very heavy rain and lightning. But in terms of that severe weather threat, again, I think it looks very low. Northwest Arkansas, go to bed. I'm not expecting any additional redevelopment there. Even if we do, won't be severe. For the River Valley, if you want to stay up, you can. But again, I'm not expecting this to be severe, especially in eastern parts of the River Valley. I'm expecting just some heavy rain potential, but looks pretty dry overall. Fort Smith area, you guys can go to bed. Again, a brief gust here and there, but nothing severe. The strongest winds are going to be on this southern edge leading into Poto and parts of northern Scott County. Then maybe a little bit on the backside there in Sequoyah County, but notice that lightning count is really diminishing. So I think, I'm going to leave this stream up. If anything were to rise to severe or some strong potential, I'll be right here. I'll get back on the stream, but we're just going to let this run for a little bit, let the radar loop, and then eventually, again, as things wind down, we'll probably end the stream. And then always on Weather Impact 24/7, we'll have that radar running so you can continue to monitor those updates. And then as we head into later this morning, of course, we'll have 5 News this morning, talk about the rest of the rain for today, which doesn't look like much. And then our next chance of storms is going to be late Saturday night, it looks like, at least for widespread activity. And those could be strong, but it looks like right now it's going to be similar to this, where maybe 1 or 2 warnings. But for the most part, just looking at some heavy rainfall potential. Okay, so let me leave the stream up. And again, I'll be right back here in case anything turns severe. But for right now, things are looking okay.